Thank you for joining us, and make sure to check out the audio version of this episode on Spotify, Apple iTunes, and anywhere else you get your podcast. Be on the lookout for new weekly episodes. You can find us by searching Nerditude Movie Podcast, and that'll get you where you need to go. Check out the video version, if you're into that sort of thing, on YouTube. Just search Nerditude Entertainment. Thanks for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Nerditude Movie Podcast. I'm Lewis. I'm here with your host, Matt and Alex.
Hello.
And as always, we like to do double features every week, each and every week. However, for the month of October, spooky season, we're doing 3 horror movies every week.
Spooky season.
Now we are going to do themes for you guys. So this first week, the theme is classics. If you want to know the other weeks, we'll stick around. We'll go through kind of what we're going to do, our plans for the rest of October.
Let's give you a little bit of a sneak peek.
So the 3 movies we're doing today, we have Halloween, The Shining, and A Nightmare on Elm Street. So we're going to review these in their theatrical release order. So we're going to start with Halloween. So this movie obviously came out in 1978, John Carpenter classic. This has a runtime of 91 minutes. This movie was a very low budget movie for its time. Budget was estimated between $300,000 to $325,000.
Basically, they just had ham sandwiches for everybody. That was the budget.
Exactly. Well, it paid off for them because they ended up making 60 to 70 million on this low budget film, which was awesome for that time.
Back in 78, that's huge.
Yeah. So obviously, this was directed by John Carpenter, produced by his late girlfriend at the time, Deborah Hill, and the screenplay was also made by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. For cast, you had a very famous actor by the name of Donald Pleasance, who gets top billing in this movie before Jamie Lee Curtis. So we have Donald Pleasance as Dr. Sam Loomis. We have Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. We have Nick Castle, who's credited as Michael Myers in the film, or The Shape. However, there was about 8 different people that played Michael Myers in the film. You have PJ Souls as Linda Vanderclough.
Whatever happened to PJ Souls?
That
is a
lot.
Is a track by a band. I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
I mean, she did good in Carrie. You have Charles Cyphers as Sheriff Lee Brackett.
I love that guy.
Kylie Richards as Lindsay Wallace, and Brian Andrews as Tommy Doyle. So let's see. Next we have, we'll jump on to fun facts. So this movie had an interesting journey to actually being released. So a lot of people like to think that this was kind of John Carpenter's baby, that it was something he set out to do, when that's not actually true. So the producers of this film, which if you notice, if you watch all the Halloween movies during the title credits, there's always a name that pops up. It's Mustafa Akkad.
I did notice that name when I was watching it. Yeah.
Yes, it's on everyone, and it's because he was a major producer in all of these films. Him and his team actually reached out to John Carpenter to produce a film that had to do with a stalker who killed a babysitter, and that pitch originally turned into what was the script for Halloween. So other interesting things, John Carpenter was paid $10,000 a day to work on a script for this film.
Righteous
Him
bucks.
him and Deborah Hill turned out a script in 10 days, filmed this movie in 20 days.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I always like to include the time it took to film the movie, because it's depending on the budget and the film, it's pretty interesting to see what these guys can get done.
And it shows where the money goes.
Yeah, exactly. So another cool thing is obviously Michael Myers' iconic mask. It's a Captain Kirk mask that was flipped inside out, spray painted white. So that mask was purchased for $1.98 by one of the production designers, Tommy Lee Wallace. Exactly. Another thing, so I mentioned that the budget was low on this film. The budget was very low at the time, so a lot of the actors, including Laurie Strode, her character, all of the clothes she's wearing, they're her own clothes. So yeah, very low budget. Now another thing, obviously Carpenter composed the iconic theme for Halloween. That was inspired by another film called Suspiria. I don't know if any of you guys have seen Suspiria. There's also a remake of it that came out on Amazon. It's a trippy film. And my last interesting fact is that Michael Myers kills a total of 7 people in this movie. I just wanted to throw that in.
And a dog?
And, does he kill a dog?
The German Shepherd.
It looked like he did.
He does.
Yeah, I think he kills the dog.
It's literally the scene where the dog is barking at him, and the next scene you just see like the dog, like he could either be giving the dog kisses or strangling it, and you don't really fully know, but the dog just kind of goes limp.
Basically, this movie is not approved by Matt's wife, is what we're saying.
No. We haven't even made it past the Al the homeless guy scene in American Psycho, because he stomps the poor little Pomeranian.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she's a little bit of a softie. Oh, boo, let's get a ambulance.
So, premise for this
You were that
movie,
way about the shed.
It was terrible.
We don't speak of that movie anymore.
The only good actor in that movie was the dog. That's why I was mad they killed it.
I thought you were going to say the shed for a second.
Well, it's the only thing that's in the entire thing that stands.
It lasted the whole time.
I don't even. It's just fucking rip some boards off. Like he's a fucking vampire. He's dead. It's sunlight. It's summertime. The sun doesn't set till 10. Anyways, go ahead.
Back to Lewis.
Yeah, sorry, Lewis.
So plot for this movie: Michael Audrey Myers, in case anyone wanted to know what his middle name was.
My middle name.
I did not know that.
I'd kill people too if they named me Audrey.
I've ruined the movie for some people.
I'm on his side now.
Holy shit! Yeah.
So as a little boy, he ends up killing his sister. He's put away for, I believe it's 20 years.
I thought it said 15.
15.
It's 15.
15 years.
Because I believe he would be 21 or around in his early 20s when
he was 6. He was 6, correct? And then 15 years later, 21.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah.
So Michael Myers kills his sister. He's put away for 16 years. He ends up breaking out of his, I believe he was at an insane asylum, and then goes on a spree killing, essentially. Now, normally on our show, we like to do first impressions or non-spoiler reviews. However, we're talking horror movies. We're talking horror movies we love. And chances are you've seen all these movies.
Came out in 78, yeah.
Yeah, you may have seen this movie. So Halloween I chose. So I just want to give my my reasoning for this choice.
No.
So there were slasher movies before Halloween. Obviously, you had Black Christmas. You had let's see what else.
I want to say My Bloody
You
Valentine. No, that was like 83. Never mind.
yeah, I mean you had Psycho, which
That opening
the
scene.
Yeah.
the iconic scene, Psycho, with the shower scene. That is actually Jamie Lee Curtis's mom. So you've had plenty of horror movies and slasher movies before this, but Halloween really redefined the slasher film. Its inspiration is in every slasher film that came after that, whether it be the silly ones like Nightmare on Elm Street, which we'll go over, or Jason. This movie definitely, its DNA is in all of the horror movies that I love. And Michael Myers, as when I think of Michael Myers, I think of him as the boogeyman. I don't think there's any villain in a slasher movie that quite captures the creepiness of Michael Myers. Also, I'm such a huge John Carpenter fan. To see the work he did after this film when he was kind of a nobody. I mean, he actually did Assault on Precinct 13 before this film. But to go from Halloween to his other films like The Thing and all of that, this movie has just always been very special to me. I watch it many times a year. If you have not seen it, what are you doing listening to this episode? But with that,
No. Continue listening to the episode. The movie can fucking wait.
yeah, that's true. Please,
Don't
please
turn it
continue listening
off.
to the episode.
Please.
Matt, I'll throw it to you. That's my impressions on it, but we could definitely just kind of go into the movie.
All right.
What do you think about Halloween?
I liked it a lot. I was worried that watching it at because I haven't seen it in quite a long time, and I was kind of concerned that watching it wasn't going to hold up to its charm. But you do kind of see where modern horror movies are influenced, because before movies, especially Halloween in specific, those certain angles didn't exist. So like for every scene that The Conjuring has, where there's something going on just kind of this side of the camera, or maybe just this side of the camera, they owe Halloween for that. Halloween is a movie that started the idea of, there's a shot in the kitchen where he's getting water or beer. He's getting beer for him, and it starts off where it's just kind of focused on him, and then the shot just, you see it just maybe turn a little to this angle and pan, and now the door's open. Lots of cool things like that. The first kill, which is Michael's sister, is basically a remake of the bathtub death scene in Psycho, down to the soundtrack. The soundtrack to when he kills her is literally the Psycho theme, down tuned to a lower octave, and it's slightly slower, which is, I think, a great homage to the horror movies that Carpenter loved. I really liked it. I was surprised I liked it as much as I did. It holds up visually. I think it holds up as well as like Escape from New York does. I think that's why it works, because the way he filmed it was so progressive for his time that those camera angles that he was using became relevant after he used them. So it never felt like a dated movie. And we'll go into this later, but when you compare Nightmare on Elm Street to a product like Halloween, you definitely get that sense of like, I see why this movie's an empire. What happened to this one? You know what I mean? But no, I liked it a lot. I still maintain the classic horror movies aren't nearly as violent as they are now. It just is what it is. It's violent in its nature, but when you talk like actual gore and actual violence, they're just not. I mean, Halloween was a really rough movie for its time, and now I watch it as I'm older, and I'm like, so that's like a trickle of blood for a stab wound?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he got poked in the eye. Like, where's the like literally when
Impaled into a wall.
When she gets him with the knife when she's in the closet, the only thing I could think of was like, there's no blood on that knife. Like, there's those little things that didn't matter back in the day when they made movies, but now because the detail is so focused on CG and what detail we can make in the CG, as a viewer, you're constantly like eagle-eyed. So now I watch it. I'm older. I notice some of the campiness that maybe is minimalized, but still there. But I enjoyed it. It's definitely earns its classic title just by you seeing its influence upon the horror genre. I love John Carpenter. One of my all-time favorite movies is John Carpenter Vampires. The score is great. It starts off and it's like got that like bow bow dow dow, and they're hunting they're hunting fucking vampires like. But enough about that. Alex, thoughts on Halloween?
It's not what I remember watching. As I'm older now, there are some things where I'm like, okay, is it scary? But then when I watched it again, I watched this. Let me see. The last time I actually watched it full from beginning to end was my oldest daughter, who's 15, was about 5 or 6, and she wanted to watch a scary movie with me, and I watched it with her.
I do want to say I am so desensitized at this point. I don't find anything we watch scary. Like, you watch the classics and you're like,
No, well,
these are kiddie movies.
this time around, there was a little more creepier things to me that not creepy, but like there was a little more things that kept me in suspense going through it. But I went through like three different phases watching this movie. So the first time I saw it, it scared me. The second time I watched it with my daughter, it didn't scare me. Then this time, it didn't scare me, but it kept me wondering about, there's some kind of creepy ass people out there that this could be possible. Not about the part about being bulletproof and whatnot, but but there are some creepy ass people out there that are kind of like this. So that they, now that I'm a father of 2 daughters and shit, it makes you think. And that's what he mainly targeted, this little, this murderer targeted mostly women.
Well, like that was like one of the funny parts about the movie is like you could see him as just protecting his home. Like those shots where he's just like lumbering around the house that he's murdering people in. Like, oh, he's just making sure his property's safe. Like, from the outside, you have no idea what the fuck's
check it out real quick.
He's just like, let me make sure my perimeter is secure, and just da-da-da-da-da. Nobody's like, what street do they live on where he's just slaughtering people and nobody can hear the screams? Like, that's some really well-made houses.
Address, but I guess I didn't. Yeah, I thought I wrote on an address.
What are they insulated with? Like, holy shit, soundproofing is amazing in the suburbs in California.
No, but I did enjoy now as an adult, like watching it. I did enjoy like how the camera angles were moving around and how things were seen differently from my point of view. But now with technology and how things go, when you see like actual kill scenes, there was a couple things where I'm like, okay, that's but that's understandable because at the time, that's understandable. Yeah. But the whole thing about getting you into the movie and keeping you into it throughout the whole thing. I still saw it finally, like I as an older person, I saw it. I don't know. I keep saying that I'm an older person. So I apologize.
Older than you were when you watched it last.
Yes. But the one thing that stuck out, my kid, when I watched it with her when she was like 6, she kept saying the boogeyman, and I never caught it then. Now when I watch it again, I actually paid attention to all the audio, like everybody's talking, like all the dialogue.
Kid calls him the boogeyman.
Yeah, I believe his name was Tommy or something like that.
Yeah,
he kept calling him the boogeyman, and it started to stick with me. And I was like, holy shit, this is kind of like a different movie now.
I can't hear the boogeyman without thinking of the wrestler. The boogeyman.
I'm the boogeyman. Smash a clock on your head and eat worm.
Like, oh man, my life is ruined. Go on, sorry.
No, but this movie definitely, watching it this time around, it definitely made a different impact on me watching it and seeing it in a different light. I still don't think it was like great. I apologize, Anthony.
Oh,
but
I quit. I'm done. Bye.
Wait a second. What's the opinion on Halloween 3 though?
I'd have to watch it again because, like I said. No, but no, there was just little things. like one thing that was bothering me, like later on, do they reference Jamie Lee Curtis's character Laurie as his sister, or is
So
it just
they do not.
No.
okay?
Sequels.
So John Carpenter, when he wrote this film, he did not want there to be sequels, and he basically stated this could live on as an anthology, which is why Halloween 3 is what it was,
Okay,
which doesn't explain Halloween 2. But
3 is
that,
Season of the Witch, correct?
yeah, 3 is Season of
Okay,
the Witch, and if anyone doesn't like that movie, I will fight you.
In the
But
street.
I
that's
want
what
to watch
made
it again.
that's what made this
I want to
movie
watch the fight.
interesting and what it was for this time, because like if you delve into true crime, the scariest thing in the world is what they call a thrill killer, which is someone who kills at random.
Mm-hmm.
And in most horror movies, you have, like most slashers, you have like Jason or Freddy, someone with like a magical element to them that's not really you can't really like tether to reality.
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, you have someone who just snaps and kills, and there's no reasoning. And if you watch the film as John Carpenter intended it to be, then there's only one, and there's no film after. And he is the boogeyman because this guy just starts killing, and you don't know why. And at the end of the movie, you still like there's just no resolution.
Yeah,
So them using the term the boogeyman, it sounds silly, but it's like it's fucking terrifying.
yeah.
that
I
was
was yelled
real
at. I was yelled at for almost a month after that by my wife because my kid kept talking about the boogeyman.
Yeah, way
And
to
and,
go.
and at that time, I didn't fucking understand what she was talking about. I guess I must have dozed off when they were saying the boogeyman.
Yeah, the kid
No,
only
but
shouts it. Like in several scenes.
The
no, but
boogeyman.
yeah, there was just like those little things that made me wonder about it. But I did enjoy the movie. I did like it, and it didn't seem like it held up to when I was a kid. And then when with my daughter watching it, it was a little different. But now it did keep me involved in the movie the whole time, and I did enjoy it. But I don't know. I don't want to say that I loved it 100%, but I did like it. I did like it. Like, so everybody's got their own opinion, right?
Yeah, and the acting in this movie definitely has its highs and lows, and you got to realize like Donald Pleasance was an established actor, so he was like the Tom Cruise quote unquote of this film. Uh, and to put that into perspective, Jamie Lee Curtis was paid $8,000 to do this movie.
Righteous bucks.
Donald Pleasance
Well,
paid 20 grand.
Ooh, wage gap.
Yeah.
was this her first role?
No, it was not. I believe she was in she had TV appearances before that. She may have been in films before this.
So she
But
wasn't.
she
She
wasn't
wasn't in.
even the first pick for this movie. Her connection to her mom being in Psycho was not even it wasn't a thing in John Carpenter's head when she got cast.
But wait, was she at this point eating Activia?
I don't.
I don't think that was a thing yet.
You guys both were serious. Like you listened for a second. Like, wait, what? Yogurt? Shut up! Like that. You both had the same like look on your face.
Can you sing the jingle real quick?
No, we're gonna get copyright stricken.
Don't do it.
So and like mentioning what they made a date. So the Shape, who he's credited as in this movie, Michael Myers. So he was played by multiple people. That scene, the opening scene, Matt was talking about, the really cool scene where you're seeing out of the eyes of the clown mask.
That was nice.
Young Michael.
I did enjoy that.
That scene is shot. The person actually doing the stabbing through those eye holes. That's Deborah Hill, John Carpenter's girlfriend.
Huh.
Nice.
A lot of the movie Nick Castle was the Shape. He got paid $25 a day and beer.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, it's like here's a sandwich. Be happy.
Yeah, but so
I don't want a sandwich. I want a manwich.
I had a question for both of you guys. What are your opinions on Dr. Loomis? Matt, I'll let you jump in.
I like Dr. Loomis. He just seems like an oddball. Like he seems like he doesn't belong in any like. I don't feel like he's like I don't have any faith that he's a legitimate doctor. Like
No, he's not.
what kind of doctor carries a revolver? Like he's just like the cop is there, and then like there's this scene where he pulls out the gun, and the cop looks at him like, "You got a fucking gun?" And he's like, "I always carry with me." And then
No,
like,
didn't he say something like kind of nervous there, Doc, or something like he said something along those lines?
Yeah.
and then like there's when he finally, spoiler alert, ends up shooting Michael. And there's like Michael has flipped over the banister, and then it does the camera angle where he's just like one more to make sure it's empty. It's like you've already shot him. He's already fallen over the banister. Why would you fire? Like there, if you have a live round in there, the kid across the street has just lost mommy. Like what are you doing? But he seemed like there should have been a storyline where he's like, I'm off the rails. I gotta make sure Michael doesn't escape. Like there's almost like there should have been a backstory where he is like Michael killed his wife and he's just been doing blow in hotel rooms until he can find him again.
So for the TV edit of this film, there are additional scenes that like sort of give a reasoning as to why he's so attached to Michael's case, but they're they're not enough to really give you anything. But I honestly think his character doesn't really fit this whole movie because he's just such a loopy guy.
Yeah.
Like
For a doctor, he's like
Yeah.
he seems pretty legitimately crazy and ready to do violence at all times.
that's what I was gonna say. I'd argue if you want to see a good portrayal of Dr. Loomis, the remake by Rob Zombie, the
Malcolm
first Halloween
McDowell.
movie. Yes, good portrayal of Dr. Loomis.
He was in Clockwork Orange, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, what did you think of?
Yeah, Mr. Loomis,
Dr.
Mr.
Loomis.
Mr. Dr. Loomis. He was a bit much with his is it a hard on from Michael Myers? Is that what you could call it? Because like he was all about him.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and like he's telling the nurse, yeah, we've got to get there, and then and his little attention to how things are going as soon as like they start off. He's like looking at how things are going with the car, and he watches her light her cigarette, and he like pays attention to the matchstick or the matchbook. He like brings that out. I like it's like very you get what I'm saying, man. I'm like losing myself here.
I feel like Dr. Loomis is Michael, like he's the stalker's stalker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and here's the thing: if you're gonna name him the Shape, just make the character's name Stabby McStabberton. Like the Shape. Like, come on. But yeah, sorry.
No, but his presence in the movie, he's always like walking around. He's stalking, like you said, he's stalking like when they show him in the neighborhood, and he says, "I found the car. It's here. It's in the block. You go around the back. I'm gonna go around the front." And he's walking through the front of the block.
Yeah.
And he's like got his hand, he's got his hand ready. And you
kids.
didn't know he had a gun at the time.
Well, then the cop shows up and he's like, I tracked him. I got him. He's right down the block. Where have you been? And it's just like, listen, you fucking psycho. Who do you think you are? Like, you're just running around here like a madman with a loaded gun. Like, what the hell's going on here? The 70s were great. This guy claims he's a doctor. Give him a gun. Send him to a patient's house.
So another thing in the script, it's basically stated in the beginning of the movie when Dr. Loomis and the nurse are going to pick up Michael because he's being escorted to a different sanitarium to go to court. They don't really fully communicate that in the movie. So it just seems like Dr. Loomis and this nurse are going to pick up Michael like he's been at fucking daycare.
Yeah, willy-nilly. Now remember, he may bite.
Yeah.
I do find that scene awesome when they pull up to it and there's just fucking chaos. And
there's just people wandering around in the rain inside the fence.
For the 70s, it's a cool scene.
So my only thing with that scene, though, and I love this movie, but so he killed his sister when he was 6. He's been in a asylum since for 16 years, so he's now 21. How does he know how to drive?
He's just good, bro.
Perhaps somebody was giving him lessons. Didn't they say that?
Yeah.
Perhaps somebody gave him lessons. Or
Not
no,
only-
Loomis actually said that.
Yeah, Loomis says it. I don't know. But I will.
As an adult, honestly, as a functioning adult, well, he's not a functioning adult. He's just an adult.
Functioning adult.
Yeah.
If his
But
function
he's
is
an
murder,
adult.
maybe
You can figure out how to maneuver a car, but to maneuver it the way he did in the scenes that they showed, not so much.
Yeah, but he's driving around like the
creeping
principal
around
in
with
Ferris
the
Bueller's
mask
Day
on.
Off. Like,
yeah.
Like, that's the other thing is nobody notices this freak in a fucking mask, like, driving this. Like, this is the 70s. Somebody would have noticed, and they would have shot him.
What, Annie, she screams, "Hey, jerk, speed kills!" And he, like, slams on the brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's just some jerk road raging, but back then it was a murderer. Like, you don't want that to happen. Like, nowadays, there's a lot of people who will stop and talk shit. But back then, if somebody was stopping, you're like, let's go inside right now.
Oh, we're gonna go.
So, what did you guys think about the kills in this movie? I know, like, one that sticks out to me is Bob, one of the boyfriends, when he goes down to get the beer, and he's impaled with just a regular old kitchen knife that holds his body
up in the air. And not only that, it's from like right here, and his body is up against the wall instead of slumped forward.
Well, the whole scene is a little weird, like the way he lifts him and the facial expressions of Bob are just like, oh, oh. It's like Carpenter was like in the back, like, you need to act like you're being choked and lifted, and he's like, in his head that translated to look at your feet, like, my feet are rising, I must be being lifted. And of course you have Michael Myers with a dead ass mask, who's just like, you just see the hand slowly kind of like.
I did like Bedsheet Bob though. That was nice.
Bedsheet Bob, yeah.
That audibly made me laugh out loud because I also thought of Beetlejuice, like where it's like, your mother's gonna be upset you ruined her $900 sheets. Like, that's what I was thinking of.
He's got the big glasses, the big.
But it is funny how she's over there like sexy talking him, and he's just like, the only thing he's concerned with is murder. Like, there's really nothing. It's just tunnel vision for murder.
Maybe that's what I should do for Halloween, is just get a sheet and get some big ass glasses and cut holes in the.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say just go on a murder spree.
Yeah, I tried.
No.
I tried that one year, but they didn't think I was a ghost. And
I gotcha.
Oh no!
Looking the way I look, it doesn't work.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because when I pulled it off, it didn't get better. They're just like, makes sense.
You did say something about there was 7 murders during this, and I was counting them, and I counted 5. So I was trying to figure out where the other 2. Is it cool if we go over that real quick? Or
yeah, let me.
Or is that too early?
So he kills after stealing the car. He kills a gas station attendant. So that's kill number 1. Is
that Phelps' garage, or is that the car, or no?
I believe it's at the garage.
Okay, I missed that then. Shit. Now I'm gonna have to go back and look at it.
Didn't you just watch these today?
Let me see.
Yeah, I did. I also had to deal with internet problems. Correct?
You've got the short-term memory of somebody who suffers from short-term memory loss. I'm not even gonna think of an insult.
I'm the goldfish of the goldfish.
Right.
Thanks.
Hey, man. I watch a movie once, I never forget it.
No, because I've got the Phelps garage, which is the car. Annie, and then you said what's his name, Bob?
Yes, he kills Bob. He kills Annie. He kills a dog. Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think it's a German Shepherd. And I totally forgot about that dog killing scene, and now I feel kind of bummed out.
You're like, at first you're like, oh, he's giving him kissies, and then you see the dog's legs go limp. You're like, not kissies.
See, because I stopped putting names after that too, and that's where it threw me off. I was keeping up with the names for a little bit, but then I started getting sidetracked with my real world of internet problems, and I just got frustrated and started just writing boy and
I will
boyfriend
say,
of girl.
I will say the
That's-
animal murder scene would have been more effective if he had not killed the dog, and like the dog sniffs him and starts licking him, like they're both on the same animalistic wavelength. You know what I mean? Like the dog just kind of walks away, like, oh, I'm okay with him.
My whole thing too is about the strength that this kid has. You know, well, he's not a kid anymore, but he's an adult.
Oh, he's 21.
What
I mean,
in the
still,
hell
that's
has he been doing that he can pick up a dog like that? Because I can't do it. A German Shepherd, I can't. And I'm a big guy.
I can.
I can't pick up a German Shepherd like that. Let alone Mr. Bob that he ends up making a Bob, you know, a Sheeting Bob.
I could pick my
Okay,
fat
here-
ass 100-pound pit bull. Up.
You
here
can
we
with
go.
one hand?
He didn't pick
I
up
found-
one hand. It was like this. He choked.
I
it.
found a list for you, and it has one off-screen death. So he kills his sister, Judith Myers. She's stabbed with a knife in the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
After the boyfriend left. He kills the mechanic who's shot. Dr. Loomis finds out as he's making his way to Haddonfield.
Okay.
He kills the stray dog, which on the internet, so it has to be true. It says cause of death for this dog, eaten by Michael Myers.
There's no proof of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Strangulation is more likely because, like, literally the whole scene is he's holding the dog up and you just see the dog's legs like start to go to touch the ground. Like they give no
Yeah.
one way or another. There's no blood on his mask or anything.
So then you have kill number 4, Lester in the back garden trying to warn Annie Brackett and protect his owner. Oh, Lester's the dog.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Olivia Strait. He kills 2 dogs.
No,
okay.
He doesn't.
Really?
This list is wrong.
Not
I'm going
on
to keep
camera.
going through it, though. Oh, yeah. So kill 3, it's considered off camera. So kill 5 is Annie Brackett, obviously. This is when she's in her car about to pick up Paul. 6 is Bob in the kitchen. And 7 is Linda as she's calling Lori. And that's it.
It was a
Yeah.
cool
So
scene too.
the scene with Annie and the car. Anybody else like pick up on how she didn't notice like what the hell's going on? She goes and checks the car door and it's locked. Oh, forgot my keys. Go back inside.
Yeah.
She goes and checks her hair and she gets the keys, comes back out and the car's open. Never put the key in.
Well, no, but she does sit there for a second, like.
And she notices the fog.
Well, but before
The ominous fog.
before she notices the condensation, she looks to the door like, wasn't that fucking locked? And then she looks at the window, so she has that little second of like, wait a tick.
That was one of the things that just like caught me. I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "You didn't notice that you got in the car so fast?"
I actually have notes. I haven't even looked at them this entire time we've been talking about it. I made notes for each movie. I've been trying to do that more and more. So please continue. I'll go over.
I think the only notes I have in my phone in red bold that we went over is Dr. Loomis is a bad doctor, like really bad. That's the only notes I took for this film.
Okay, so I'll go over. So one note I have is Illinois, of course.
Uh-huh.
Then I have there's a scene where they're like, when we get there, load him up with Thorazine, and she's like, Jesus, doctor, and he's like, we have to put him out. And I looked up Thorazine. Brand name Thorazine has been discontinued for use in the United States. The movie's fast paced. When the patient jumps on the car when they pull up to the insane asylum that's been broken loose, it's very much like a Flash Gordon sound. It's like that, like when he jumps on the car. We already talked about him pulling the trigger again.
He palms the window though, and that car.
Yeah, and breaks it. But
Yeah.
that whole scene pissed me off with when he was jumping on the car. Like, take off and then run him over. Yeah. Like, why are you so scared of this asshole? You're in the car. Like, drive, woman. Like, what is going on here?
One thing I did like was a little bit of the detail was how when they did tie the scene with the mechanic to the nurse, because he found the matchbook.
Yeah.
But the thing that really threw me off was like how obvious it was going to be that they're going to use that later. That was one of the things I was trying to get at earlier, and I brain farted on it, but I didn't want to go too far ahead. I think that's what my problem is. But anyways,
I also try to think of like things in the time they came out. So like I watch it now, but I'm also trying to watch it as in like audiences in '78. This was all like holy shit, new
it was all new.
Yeah.
Which is really, you watch it now and you're like, yeah, that's cool, I guess. But back then in a theater, it must have been fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one of those movies where, like, if the guy that the girl went to the movie with wasn't going to be coming over after the movie before they watched it, he was getting invited over after simply because she was terrified Michael Myers was outside of her fucking house. Like, that's what I would imagine, like, why dudes wanted to take their gals to the theater to go see that. Because if I was like some random 17-year-old girl who's got to walk home in the 70s in the dark streets after going to see fucking Halloween, I'd be terrified. Hell, as a grown man, I'd be terrified.
Well, back in the 70s, every girl was driven home by somebody. They weren't left to walk on their own or take the bus.
That can't be statistically true.
I believe there was more gentlemen back then.
Yeah, what is it? Chivalry.
Chivalry,
No,
there you go.
Chivalry is dead.
There's not enough of that now.
No, I 100% agree, Alex. Chivalry is well alive. My wife opens the doors for me. She pulls my chair out when we go to dinner.
So you're saying chivalry has reversed?
She pumps the gas. Okay, my wife fully exhibits chivalry.
Do you sit in the driver's seat while she pumps the gas?
Oh yeah, I just stare at through the mirror. I stare at her face, and like it's -10. I'm not gonna stand out there.
All right.
I imagine you sit in the back seat like it's a cab.
I just got my head, the head tweaked. You better pump it right. Can I come in? It's doing the auto thing. We prepaid. Nope. Gotta wait. Lock the doors. I'm cold too. I have the car off. It's not cold, not warm in here.
I just don't have the wind, but it's still cold.
I can't feel my fingers. You've only got 2 more gallons, sweetie.
Oh boy.
So I guess, do you guys want to jump into the ending scenes of this movie, because it does get a little loopy?
Yeah, let's do that and then wrap up Halloween.
So I will say, Michael on the defensive side in this movie, he takes a knitting needle, a coat hanger, and gets stabbed by his own knife.
Okay,
then eventually
the knitting needle. He kind of stands up and he's like, "What the fuck?" And like, "What the fuck?" And then falls down. Like, it's the funniest like you injured him scene, because it's so human of him to be like, "Did she fucking stab me?" And then he pulls it out and like, "She fucking stabbed me with I'm passing out." Like, and then he falls.
False death, right? First false death of a horror movie.
Yeah, that would be his first. And then the coat hanger, I was happy with it because I'm sitting there like, she starts bending it out and I'm like, poke him in the eye. He's got holes. And sure enough, like, but it also is like the type of scene where you feel there should have been like a boing, like sound effect. The way he reacts, the way he reacts was funny to me. He's just like, like, I don't know. I almost wish there would have been like a voiceover, a dude or something like, my fucking eye, like, like Peter Griffin does the voiceover for Halloween.
Like he broke character too. Like, instead of him just being silent,
son of
what
a bitch,
man, that's my eye.
I'm immortal, but my eyes aren't.
I still have to see.
So it's funny you should say that, because in the second Halloween, he gets shot in both eyes.
Ooh.
And comes back in Halloween 4.
Well, of course, because at that point, it's Wes Craven is directing him.
So what about what did you think about Dr. Loomis taking out Michael?
His gun skills?
Well, yeah, he's just like, he's firing, right?
I shot him 6 times.
Yeah, like
there's also a conspiracy about that.
You almost expect him to be like, I got the son of a bitch. But he shoots him, and then, like I said, Michael is falling across the banister, and then he's like, click. He fires again, but it's just like, if there's a round in that chamber, Billy across the street is, you know, he's shot to death because you fired that last round after Michael's already been flipped over the banner.
That's one of the big things that everybody had talked about on the internet was how many times he shot him. There
I
was
didn't even
7. There
count.
was 6.
Was there really?
And there was 6 because the type of gun he was shooting is a 6 shooter.
Yeah.
And I actually had to rewind it a couple times. That's another reason why it took me longer to watch the movie.
You gotta stop watching it on VHS too, and next time you just.
I was doing 20-second bursts on my. Anyways,
second, kids, I gotta rewind the tape.
But I counted it, and the thing is, he does the first shot, and then the second and third shot are kind of quick, and then the fourth shot it throws you off when you're listening to it because they don't show you the gun every time when it shoots, and when you normally see a gun shooting, you see the recoil and whatnot, so you can count with it. But that was one of the big things. They always said that when he uses the words, "I shot him 6 times" in the sequel. But they're like, no, he didn't. He shot him more, and there was a big argument between people that are big fans of the movie. I don't know if you guys knew that, but sorry.
I didn't know there was a controversy there.
There was.
That quote actually starts in the second movie. I don't know if you hear him say it at the end of the first one.
No, he didn't. He didn't say it in the end of the first one, but he says it in the sequel. But yeah, he does use I shot him 6 times, and everybody would always argue that he shot him more than, in the movie he shot him more. They thought it was a flub. Maybe they might have re-edited it and set it out. Maybe the original, I don't know, the VHS copy, we don't own one.
You know that, I mean, Halloween, the original's it's had what, a 20-year anniversary, a 30-year anniversary, and a 40-year anniversary already. So
there's so many.
They've made 4 different versions of it. I do find the Michael Myers being shot scene has all of the like flair of a low budget Bollywood movie nowadays. Like
yeah, it's pretty bad.
Like and then over the railing, and then of course he's gone, and then Loomis's face like he's trying to act like he's surprised, but the actor portraying him also wants to be like, Loomis wouldn't be surprised by this. You know what I mean? Like, he's got that internal struggle of, like, the director, Carpenter told me to act like I'm surprised he's gone. I'm not surprised.
No, yeah, Donald Pleasance kind of did his own thing with this film, but I'm sure Carpenter was just happy to have a paid gig, so I think he kind of just let him do his own thing.
Gig. I mean, the budget was $300,000, you said?
Yeah.
And he got $100,000 of that?
I don't know how much he got.
$10,000
I don't know
a day
how much
for
he
10
banked
days,
off.
right?
Yeah, he got $10,000 a day,
and for 10 days, so that's the $100K.
Yeah, but was that for both of them, for him and his girlfriend?
I'm sure Deborah Hill got a cut too. I mean, she was this movie would not be nearly as good as it was without her. Because she also developed the
because you were going to
screenplay.
Insult her.
No.
When you cut out for a second, I was like, was he going to call her a bitch? Like, what was that about? But then you went into like giving her a compliment. I was like, oh, thank God.
No, I think her and Carpenter had a falling out, but I think had Halloween stuck as an anthology series, I think it would have been cool to see more screenplays from her. I honestly don't think Carpenter wanted to. Or at least from what I've read, he didn't want to keep going with it. I think he wanted to kind of just pass the torch.
So basically, he sets the groundwork and he lets different directors decide the story elements.
Yeah, and that's why
would in theory work if and it works if you don't have studios meddling.
Yeah. But I mean, with that, do you guys want to rate this movie?
Yes, it is time for the hot dogs.
All right, well, I guess I'll go first because I picked it. It's a 5 out of 5.
Presumed. Alex?
I'm gonna do 4 because like I said, man, earlier, there was little things that just didn't mesh with me, but I still liked the movie. I still enjoyed it. I was into it.
I could tell you're looking at Lewis's screen. Like, I'm sorry, brother. I still like it. Believe me, I like it.
No, it's just for the time that I saw. I saw it 3 different times, and each one was different each time. But this time I watched it and I enjoyed it. It brought me actually higher than what I thought, because I actually did not like it coming up into this. And when I
Really?
watched it the third time, I did enjoy it. So I'm gonna do 4. If that's okay with you guys.
I'm also gonna do 4, and I give it 4, and it's got nothing really to do with the movie being bad itself. Like, I dig the story, incredibly well directed. The soundtrack's really well done. It's just movies of that era have a certain level of like. I'm so desensitized, whether it be blood and gore or stylistic murder or shit like that, that the old school movies, even if I love them, a movie like Halloween being its age, the murder scenes are a little antiquated. But that's the only reason I would say 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
If you asked me when I stepped out of the theater in 1978, it would be a 5 out of 5, and my lights probably would have I would have been hustling to my car, because they film it in with the first person angles and shit in such a way that, I could, you were dealing with the era of paranoia too, so it's not out of the realm of, so that you had the Manson family do their thing and shit like that. So you're only a decade removed from that. So it's like the idea of a psychopath kind of stalking an average housewife or an average teenager and killing them was stuff. It happened. I mean, you also had Dahmer and Gacy and all these. This was the era of serial killers.
There's a little thing behind you, Lewis. Right behind you. Yeah, move it. Yeah, right there. I see something. Oh shit! There it is.
It's a little hard to see.
I see Michael.
That's my friend Audrey.
I like that.
Audrey's pressing his knife on his nipple. It must be relaxing.
So we got so I rated 5. You guys rated 4. This is my last episode of the Nerditude movie podcast.
Oh, you'll be back.
Well, all right. So what a coincidence! Alex and I will be recording a special episode for next week, where we bash Halloween 3 incessantly.
Oh no! I'm starting my RoboCop 3 all the time, every time podcast.
God, no! You could take that with.
Hey, can I be in there too? I like RoboCop 3.
It's not a good movie. You guys, I know you guys defend it, but Android Ninjas aside, it's a different actor. He's got a fucking jetpack. It's PG-13. It's like somebody watched Max Headroom, and they were like, "How do we make RoboCop like Max Headroom?" He's all the craze.
If we get enough likes and subscribers, we are going to review World's Greatest Dad and RoboCop 3.
Give me a high 5.
I will put it this way: if any person comments on the YouTube that is not connected to us,
okay,
like if they're a friend who listens to it, fine, but no family members and none of that bullshit. If anybody comments one of those two movies, whether it's RoboCop 3 or World's Greatest Dad, I will agree to review them. But there has to be a specific comment from a viewer that isn't like, you can't go Facebook your fucking friend and be like, yo, make this comment. Not gonna. I will delete the comment and be like, it never existed.
You just opened up Pandora's box, my friend.
All right.
Any listener really wants to see a review for World's Greatest Dad or RoboCop 3, let us know in the comments.
Those are two movies that don't go together either.
There's just gonna have to be an episode of movies we'll collect a few movies that I hate, and the whole episode will be rage. Like by the time I'm done recording the episode, I'm gonna have to go to the hospital for my blood pressure.
I was actually saving that World's Greatest Dad thing for a little later, but you beat me to it, Lewis.
Alex is like, I know we're doing horror movies, but my grab bag is World's Greatest Dad. I would veto it so hard. All right, so we're wrapping up Halloween here. Lewis has a 5. Alex and I each have a 4, which means looks like this podcast is coming to an end as we know it. But with that said, we're gonna. What do we got next?
All right, guys. So moving on to our second feature. So this movie is titled The Shining. This movie came out in May 23rd, 1980. This one, the runtime on this is a little weird.
Little
So American runtime on this 144 minutes. However, there is a cut of this that's 146 minutes, and there's a cut of this that is 119 minutes. If you've seen the movie on 4K, it's considered the quote unquote director's cut. That is the 146-minute cut.
I thought there was a little bit of stuff in there that I had seen that I don't remember ever seeing. But I
So
thought it
then
was just
Yeah.
me.
I did not see that cut. So sorry.
So for budget, you have $19 million. So this is a relatively small. I mean, it's obviously bigger than Halloween, but it's still
Yeah.
this is a small film. Box office. This movie was technically considered a failure. 46.2 million is what it made
Yeah,
on
it is
a
a
19
failure.
million budget. Yeah, standard movie rules
With
or
marketing and everything
golden
like
rule
that.
for movies. Yeah, you want to double the budget, if not a little more. So this film was directed, produced, screenplay written by Stanley Kubrick. The screenplay also was assisted by a novelist named Diane Johnson. For cast, you have Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance. You have Shelley Duvall as Wendy Torrance. Shelley Duvall went just straight down in her career after this film.
Yeah.
Hey,
You have,
hold on. I'm just gonna stop you.
Depends on what you mean.
Are you insulting the gosh dang classic Suburban Commando?
Shelley Duvall looks like a crackhead now.
She's terrible looking. I'm not gonna. Here's the. I'll go into it. Yeah. Shelley Duvall is a atypical Hollywood actress. We'll go.
Yeah, and Kubrick was not a fan of her, but we'll get into that. So you have Danny Lloyd as Danny Torrance, Scatman Crothers as Dick Halloran. It's a fitting name.
Scatman. Every time I see the credits come up and it says Scatman Crothers, I was like, oh man.
Barry Nelson as Stuart Ullman, Philip Stone as Delbert Grady, Joe Turco as Lloyd, and Ann Jackson as Doctor. That's the credit. So a couple facts about this movie. Obviously, this is adapted from the novel by famous American horror author Stephen King.
Who's that?
He's an indie author, little guy.
All right.
So, interesting thing about this movie: Stephen King wrote a screenplay for this film. Stephen King is great at writing novels, not great at screenplays, even worse at directing. But this movie being close to him, the book was kind of an allegory for Stephen King's alcohol abuse. So this was a book that was very important to him. He wrote a screenplay, handed it to Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick just threw it out, didn't even read it. So that's why King to this day does not like this movie. Also, if you were to read the novel and see the movie, they're two separate entities. So I like to put a pin in that argument as they're both great. There's not one that's better than the other. But Kubrick really had his fingers in this movie between production and cast. This is considered a masterpiece because this movie is exactly the way he intended it to be. And I think obviously the legacy of this movie kind of speaks to itself. But yeah, this movie was Matt's pick, so I'm gonna let him start it off. Matt, what made you choose The Shining as your film for this week?
I don't know. Our objective was classics, and I try to think of like what movies I watched that were horror movies when I was a kid, and classics vary. Like for me, a classic isn't necessarily a movie that's 30 years old or 40 years old. can be a movie that was made in like '95, but if I watched it at the age of adolescence and growing up, it's a classic to me. However, this just happens to be a legitimate classic. I love this movie. The soundtrack's amazing, and I actually did watch the 4K restoration. They did a great job on the soundtrack. The cinematography, Kubrick was a master of the one shots. He was before that style was popular at all. He was a master of putting you over the character's shoulder, like when you have Jack in the beginning getting the tour. You get put right over Jack's shoulder as he goes from the entrance hall to the kitchen to this area. I love the one shots. It's one of those things where the dialogue is just, we were talking a little bit before. There's two ways to watch this. You watch this when you're young, before you're married, before you've fallen in love, and then you watch it when you're older, you're married, you have a loved one, and you're, as a husband, the things that Jack says to his wife in it are stingers. They're things that, and Shelley Long, to her credit, and I'm not a big fan of her as an actress, you do feel bad for her. There's no in between. Those even before any of the physical violence happens, when he gets into the little skirmishes with her in the arguments where he tells her, "I've let you waste enough of my fucking life," or he blows up on her for over nothing because she just wants to get the hell out of there because she knows something's not right. You feel it, and she does a great job of like. There's the scene I'm thinking in particular where he does tell her that and he storms out of the room and she's just kind of sitting on the bed crying. And as a husband now, I watch that. When I was younger, I was like, give a shit, get the axe. But I get older now, and as a husband, I watch it and you hear that, and it's just like I watched it with my wife, and I'm over there like, fuck. You said that to your wife, bro? Like, that's pretty rough, man. Like it's definitely got a different level of realism when you're a bit older. I don't find any of these movies scary. This is a pure art film for me. It's cinema porn for your eyes. It's symmetrical. Every scene is symmetrical. There's not an angle that Kubrick shot that wouldn't work in itself divided by 4. Like he was just a master of that. The soundtrack's beautiful. He's a master of the tenseness, and the dialogue, like I said, is just extraordinary. When they have the confrontation with the baseball bat up the stairs, and the way he talks to her is just with such visceral nastiness. It is Nicholson, to his part, if he would have gone a comedy route, he could have been the original Jim Carrey. Because when you really look at his facial expressions and shit in this movie, there's a range there.
Yeah.
That, obviously makes him the good actor he is, but there's just, like when he's talking to Lloyd in the bar, because that's a one-man monologue. There's a couple lines from Lloyd, the barkeep, but that's a monologue. And you see his range of emotion. And before we go too deep, because I got a couple things I want to say on the deep dive, I'm going to pass it on to you guys. We'll hear from Alex to let me, give me kind of what you thought, your impression. We're not doing any first impressions. We're just going head first, and then we'll wrap back around to me later on, so I can throw some more knowledge vomit at you.
Yeah. So me going into this movie, it's nothing compared to what I remember when I first saw it. Like I said about the previous Halloween, these movies I have not watched regularly, like maybe you guys have watched.
I watch at least once a year.
Yeah, and I'm not. I mean, I had to fucking rent it today, so. So like, going into it though, I don't recall a lot of it. There was like a lot of things that was happening where I don't remember. You remember like the key scenes, but I don't remember like them touring him around, showing him what he's going to be doing. I don't remember the interview. I don't remember them telling him like what he's going to be doing. And I don't remember like the conversation of like, oh, well, that's why they didn't tell you this in Denver. Or he actually says that's why they didn't tell me in Denver, about what he's going to be actually doing and what happened at his work. moving
Previous
forward.
caretaker, yeah.
But it was like a completely different movie to me to watch today, and it was pretty good. It just like opened my eyes to like all these new little things that was happening. I did have like questions here and there about like different little choices about how they shot these scenes and stuff, but the opening scene, I think you guys covered it in our off screen talks about stuff that was showing like the helicopter that was missing from like new versions. I don't even
when they like the shadow they remove in the
that stuff
4K.
when I watched it as a kid, I never even fucking saw it. So like for you being younger than me to actually point it out, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Attention to detail.
Yeah, so that just goes to show like the difference in what I pay attention to. And I apologize, but no, it's like just that opening scene about them running the scene, him driving, to the place with his little buggy. That was all pretty cool to me. I liked how that worked, and but the movie itself and how it took place and how it changed like from his demeanor from when he got there,
Yeah.
and how it progressed into his cat. I don't know if you guys can. I'm sorry. How his attitude changed towards things. It to me it basically seemed like it was covering this guy that was going through some serious shit, and he had this kid that also felt his serious of what he was going through. So they had like this little connection that they reacted off each other, and and I've never seen that in the movie when I watched the first time. So this was like something new to me. So
Well,
it was.
Did you catch this time watching it why that there's that weird energy between them?
Yeah, and it mostly had to do with Mr. Oh God, I can't.
Dick Halloran.
Haller. Those two A's mess with me. I feel like there should be an O in the second O, and then in the second.
He's a
I
dick.
Hallarine. Yeah. But when he starts explaining, I don't remember that ever when I was a kid about him explaining that stuff. About The Shining and how him and his grandma had that
Really?
relationship. Yeah, I don't remember none of that.
Maybe you watched the 120-minute cut when you were a kid.
Maybe I did. Maybe it was on TV. Maybe I saw it. I don't know. But it's tough for me to think that because I had the hot box.
Yeah, no kidding. WWF pay-per-views at the time.
This was like a completely different movie for me when I saw it today, and it just like there's like so much shit that happened that just like threw me off, and I really enjoyed it this time. So I don't know. I don't want to go too far ahead and throw things off, but things that stuck out to me is how this movie influenced other movies later. Yeah. So everybody might not like it or not, but Ready Player One references this movie, and I can't remember if it references it in the book.
It does, yeah.
Movie, okay,
it does a great job in the movie.
Yeah, in the movie they do it too, and they talk about Room 237. They talk about these things and how, and they also go into how Stephen King hated the fucking movie, but he loved his fucking book version of it.
Yeah,
and that was the one thing that he hated his creation or some shit like that. And it's just from 1980 till 2018 or 2016 when Ready Player One came out.
Mm.
So like it just amazes me how this movie still will touch like certain things that move on as we go along. So I'll pass it back to what is Lewis now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
back to you. All right.
Yeah, so this as Matt said earlier, because this movie is kind of a visual treat for the eyes, and there's a lot in it that you can. I agree with Alex. You can miss small pieces, and like Matt said, you can't really appreciate this movie until you've seen it a couple times.
Yeah.
I am a big Stephen King fan, so when I do watch this movie now, I do often compare it to the book, and
I've never read, so you got me beat.
In another timeline, I would have liked to see Stanley Kubrick direct Stephen King's screenplay just to see what it would be like.
Yeah.
Because you do Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance. He puts on an amazing job, and I consider this movie a masterpiece. But in the book, it humanizes him a little bit more. And I don't think you could have included that in this movie. I think Jack Nicholson's performance was just. I think whatever version of his character is in this movie, it only works for this movie. Stephen King does like to use tropes of Native American burial grounds, which the Overlook Hotel in this film and the book are on. And again, that's like a little thing. It's a big thing, but it's a little thing that gets lost in this film when you have all these cool colors and just between the acting and the way it's shot, you can miss those small pieces and watch it a second time and be like, oh yeah, I didn't like.
Well, yeah,
you probably don't
it's
know.
the one line, and then not only does he say that he's pretty sure that it's on a Native American burial ground, but he's like, pretty sure they had to move a few of them when they built the place. It's just like, geez.
Like I
Well, did he say that it was also kind of like a war or something, like, or like a kind of like they had to fight him off?
Yeah, when they were
building
yeah.
Well, and also Danny asks, he brings up the Donner Party on the way to the Overlook Hotel. But so I've watched this movie. I can't even count how many times. When I was watching it the other week, I was watching the beginning scene, and I noticed that Jack Nicholson is reading a Playgirl magazine, and I'm like, huh. Didn't notice, like, just caught it. So there's like something.
Culture.
I still didn't notice that, so that's weird. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean there are a bunch of cool things. Like Room 237 is like
great
in pop culture. It's a bit of a weird one. In the book, it's Room 217, but the actual location where the Overlook Hotel is filmed in Colorado, they didn't want to freak people out, so they changed the name of the room, which makes no sense because they're a tourist trap now. But yeah, this movie does a lot of cool things, and Jack Nicholson's character and his journey through the film is enough to almost overshadow Danny's shining ability. So it is. I could see how watching this movie, you have to like watch it a couple times to appreciate and kind of absorb everything.
Well, that's something too that I didn't realize at the first, that Danny had some kind of ability. And like I said, I don't remember Chef. I don't remember Chef talking to.
Like, did you ever actually watch the movie, or are you just convinced by like you watched a trailer and thought you watched it?
No, it's just different times of me watching as a kid. There's different things I pay attention to.
Yeah, because
my attention is more towards something else. Is actually watching the movie. As a kid, you're just like, oh, I get to watch it finally.
The scene,
and then you see boobs. You know what I mean?
For like when you're so like I'll give you an example of that for me. Like when you're younger, you watch the scene where he goes into 237, and it's like, oh, it's a naked lady. And
exactly.
But then you watch it when you're older, and you look at it on a different level, because here, let's say you look at it from the base of what he knows it, which is a naked woman in a bathtub in a hotel that's supposed to be empty. And the smile, like the Grinch-like smile that starts to form over his face.
Oh yeah.
And there's no reaction. There's no, how is this woman here? It just fully consumes him like he's in a trance. And then, of course, we know how that ends.
And then he goes back and says, yeah, he's lying.
Yeah, and then it's completely, I didn't see nothing. And I did want to point out the scene with Danny, when Danny goes to get his fire truck, and he comes into the room, and Nicholson's just sitting on the bed, and he hugs him and tells him he loves him. And my feeling is on that scene, that was the last of the actual Jack trying to fight against it.
Yeah.
Where he is inside there, he understands he's losing the battle, and this is his last outcry to tell his son that he loves him, and he knows that within the next night or so he's going to brutally murder him. For me, that's the scene where Jack is kind of like, oh shit, I'm slipping. I still love my son. Like, what can I gotta let him know. Which is an interesting scene when you watch it nowadays, because when you're younger, it's like, okay, he still loves his kid. Good for him.
And I never realized that as a kid. I never saw that at that moment. I never saw that. And now as an adult, I'm like, Danny's calling him on him, like, because he has Tony, which I don't know, we didn't bring him up yet, but Tony, which is his
Imaginary friend, yeah.
Yeah, and that's his shining, I guess you would call it. And he's showing him these things that is leading up to the events, and he tells him, like, are you gonna kill us? Are you gonna hurt us, Dad? Like he says, are you gonna hurt us? And he's like, no, I would never do that.
Well, then you have the scene in the bar, which is an endearing scene where he goes from like, he's like, but I love him.
Yeah.
And then I want to go back to when the social worker is talking to her. And she starts to describe how Danny got his shoulder dislocated. And the look on the social workers, because she's like, it's just like an accident that happens where you grab them 100 times, and then there's the one time where you just grab them a little too hard. And the social worker's face is the blank look of, you got to be fucking kidding me. Like staring at her like, that's not acceptable. Like in her face, you could just, that's not right.
And again, from when I was watched the first time to when I watch it now, I'm like, that is a big thing. Yeah.
But then you go back to the bar where Jack Nicholson explains the incident. And, he's like, talking about how he loves Danny. And then it goes, but the little bastard had thrown my papers all over the floor. And I just wanted to grab him to get him out of the way. And just a little bit of foot-pounds per second too much. And the way he describes it is, it's very much like, you feel bad for Jack in that moment because you understand that everything he is doing before the hotel infects him, because it really is an infection to his brain. But before the hotel gets its grasp of him, everything he is doing is for his family.
Yeah.
He after that happened with Danny, where he dislocated his shoulder, he quits drinking. He's been miserably sober and that's the one funny line they have where he's like, here's to 5 months sober and all the irreparable harm it's done to me. And I laughed out loud on that line. But, that's the thing about it. And I will agree with Stephen King on it, where giving him a human element would have been much more impactful, because he transitions from loving father to psychopathic murderer rather quickly. Like, at least in movie time.
Though, I mean, the movie is 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
See, I look at it different, though. I look at it from the very moment he gets his office space. From the very moment he has that typewriter, the infection begins.
Well, that's about, it's about 45. I was keeping track of the time just because I
But think about the progression. That's about an hour in, and then within the next hour, it goes from that to him chasing his son with an axe in a maze.
Yeah, it does go very fast.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where, like, the little glimpses you do get of Jack's soul before the hotel steals him completely are endearing. Like, the whole bar scene monologue is probably one of my favorite scenes of the movie, because it's got humor. It's really well written. It shows that he indeed loves. And what does he call her? The sperm bank upstairs.
Yeah, sperm bank upstairs.
He calls her a sperm bank. I actually wrote that in my notes. I just put quote unquote sperm bank.
I skipped writing that, but I did remember it.
Go on, Lewis. Sorry.
Oh no, so like some things from the book that I felt could have added to this film, and they're just small things, like the reason Jack is taking this job at the Overlook Hotel is because he was an alcoholic, had a falling out as a teacher, and the main reason he goes to the Overlook with his family not only is to write his novel, but his main reason is he wants to reconnect with his family. And I do feel like this movie gets quick to the hotel kind of sinking its teeth into Jack. But again, it's like there are small things I wish that were added, but I literally can't see this movie any other way than it is. It's just, to me, it's just perfect.
And I always find the line very interesting when he's talking to Grady, I believe it is, and he looks at him and he's realizing, he's like, nah, you were the caretaker. You chopped your family up into little pieces. Like, when I'm watching that, I'm like, for one thing, like, who is that bold to where if that was the truth, you're just going to shove it in the face, right?
Yeah.
And then the second thing, because Grady looks at him and he's like, you're the caretaker, sir. You've always been. And that's like the moment where the house is like, no, we own you. You've always been here. You're our property. That's where the house is really, because that's when Grady starts talking about they need to be punished and the transgressions need to stop. I do love how they use these characters that are virtually NPCs of a movie. Like they're meant to be one-off scene characters. I did read an interesting theory that goes into the sequel that I haven't seen the sequel yet, but I've got it spoiled for me that there is a cameo by Jack, played by a different actor.
There is, and if you watch the sequel, I highly recommend, if you like this movie, watch the sequel, the director's cut.
Does it go into it more?
Yeah, if you go in comparing it to The Shining, you're doing it a disservice. It's a sequel to a film, and it's a good film on its own right. But as a double feature back to back, I'd highly recommend The Shining and the director's cut of Dr. Sleep.
I did read that the only way Stephen King allowed, because he worked with the director for Dr. Sleep, the only way he would allow them to basically do a sequel to which they go back to the Overlook was the director actually pitched him and told him, look, this is why I want to go to the Overlook. Imagine Danny walking into the gold room and meeting Jack as the bartender, which I had kind of gotten to a little bit of a rabbit hole and read a theory that the bartender at one point is always the caretaker. Unfortunately, when you read the backstory of what little does exist for the character of Lloyd, there's nothing to really connect those two dots. But there is the theory out there that when Jack meets Lloyd is kind of the caretaker of it, and then it's he's the one who kind of is behind. So Jack becomes essentially Lloyd in the sequel, which frankly I didn't know they go back to the Overlook in Dr. Sleep till I watched the new trailer for it, and I was like, holy shit.
There's one thing about that, though. So Mike Flanagan, who's a director of Dr. Sleep, and he does Haunting a Hill House and Bly Manor. So he is doing a lot of Stephen King adaptations, and King is working closely with him. So King let him, not let him, but King wanted him to direct the movie, but had one caveat. And man, this is a spoiler for Dr. Sleep, so I feel like I can't say it. But
spoil it for me.
Do you want me to spoil it for you?
Alex,
I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't.
No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But I will say, if you've read the book ends differently than the movie. And King wanted the end of The Shining, the novel, to kind of make its way back into the second film. Okay. So, it definitely.
So you're talking time travel?
No, you'll. I would recommend watching them both and just maybe looking up a Wikipedia entry for the first book. But it definitely ties back into the first book. Dr. Sleep does.
Interesting. Okay,
so
I'm really excited to watch it now.
The next one I should watch is Dr. Sleep director's cut.
Yes, which is on HBO Max. It's the director's cut.
Well, excuse me. Hopefully, I can do that within the next 2 days.
If you're into it, works.
Hey, shut the fuck up.
So, I guess a question I have for you guys: growing up, I always had it in my head. I didn't know, or I couldn't decide whether it was the issue with Jack of either the ghosts were real and the Overlook was this real entity, or if it was essentially cabin fever. Now I've read the novel, so I know exactly what it is. But like growing up, did you guys think it was one over the other?
I always felt that oh, sorry. Please go ahead, Alex.
I don't think it was cabin fever. I think that it was the entity of the building of the Overlook. That's just me. because when they show up, I didn't know that Danny had this clairvoyancy or whatever you want to call it ability. I didn't know he had that until this recent that I watched it, and I don't know. I can't compare it to the book, so I didn't know that was going on, and also I did not know that there was also a connection between the dad and the son, as far as they both had something. It's just one picked up on the evilness of it, and the other picked up on just of the life itself. And that's just the way I felt. Danny picked up on the life itself, and Jack picked up on the evil that he kind of absorbed in some form. But I think it was the Overlook itself that had the grasp on the whole thing. That's just me. Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think they make it pretty clear by like, even though it's pretty ambiguous about like, are they real or is it all cabin fever? By the end of the film, they give you a couple glimpses into it being the fact that it is ghosts that are of the Overlook. When she's running away from Jack, trying to escape, and she goes into the gold room, and it's full of skeletons, and
Sees
like
it.
that's when basically that's the house lifting its veil, and showing her what it actually is. I read the book as well. The book does go in more detail about what the ghosts want, which you basically have no fucking clue from the movie if you just watch the movie. It's like, oh, they're just haunted. Okay, cool. But you know, the cool thing that at least the film does, I would say more subliminally than outright, is it's the idea that each one of these people that Jack is able to interact with, or ghosts that he's interacting with, were obviously taken by the hotel. These are victims of the absorption of this hotel, and I think they make it 100% clear that it's not cabin fever at the end when they zoom in on the picture and he's in the picture.
Yeah.
That is basically the hotel, you know, completing its mission and taking another soul. But yeah, no, I've never thought it was fake. I've always, you know, there was always the idea of how does he get out of the freezer or the pantry? You know,
Yeah.
because Grady gives him that pep talk about basically you got to go chop your family up. I'll let you out if you're gonna do that. Yeah. So, and that's the other thing is, the whole time, like towards the end of the movie, I was in my head kind of like, man, this dude's got his bosses on his nuts. He's got his family on his nuts. Like, that's why he's losing his shit. Go ahead, Alex.
One thing that made me laugh a lot was oh god, I can't say his name right, but the chef. I can never say his last name right.
Just call him Scatman.
Scatman.
Dick, what's his name? Dick Halla.
It's Scatman.
Halloran.
Scatman.
Yeah.
Halitosis.
But he goes, yeah, he goes. They're screwing shit up over there. You know, I gotta get back there and I gotta find out.
They're assholes.
They're assholes. Like the way he said it.
Yeah.
I was like, yes. I was like, I love it.
Well, that's the whole thing is like the conversation
talking to Apollo's trainer and you know, the future Rocky trainer.
Well, like when him and Danny talk, I do love that initial conversation when they meet. When he's trying to basically be very coy with Danny about it, and Danny's like, "What about 237? You're afraid of it, aren't you?"
Yeah.
And he gives him that look of like, "Listen, you little cracker, you don't be bringing up that room." Like,
talk about it.
Like, you know, that conversation's an interesting little conversation between the two of them.
The scene two that shows him talking to his mom Wendy, and then he's looking at them, and Danny hears
some ice cream.
Some ice cream.
Yeah.
Like from the side, you see him talking to her, and he looks at him.
So I have to ask, do they explore the shining power more in the sequel in Dr. Sleep? Like, is it demonstrated? Okay, cool. I'm gonna have to watch. I'm gonna make my wife watch that this weekend. I told her, I was like, "We watch Shining. You gonna watch this one?" She said, "Yeah." I want to hold her to it Sunday.
And that's a thing that this film does. I think in a great way. It doesn't. It presents you with The Shining and almost presents you with, obviously, the connection between Danny and Dick, how it works, but like it doesn't give you too much. It's like
there's no explanation
they have
of
its
what
ability.
it is.
Yeah,
Grady calls it a talent. your son has an extraordinary extraordinary talent. Yeah, I mean it's theoretically, and like I said, I don't know how they explore it in the sequel. By the way, why I understand the book was called Doctor Sleep, but nobody in marketing was like, let's call the movie Red Rum. Like, it just makes more sense to me. Like, I understand, once again, it's based off the sequel book, but you're making a movie that's a sequel to The Shining. From a marketing perspective, I'd have been like, if we don't name it Red Rum, we're fucking stupid. If we don't name it Red Rum and have signs in the movie theaters that have mirrors attached to them, that when you look at them, you see it spells murder, we're stupid. Sorry, that's just from a marketing point of view.
So the book is called Doctor Sleep for a reason. The sequel being called Doctor Sleep, not so much.
Okay, fair enough. Like that's the other thing is I think Doctor Sleep. I feel like it gets into the voodoo occult. You know what I mean? Like I think House of a Thousand Corpses with Doctor Satan. But no, there's literally like, and I think Alex is 100% right. And I think it's not just age; it's what mood you're in too. If you're in a weird mood that's more melancholy, you're going to pick up on, I think, the nuances of him delving deeper and deeper into because there's a certain point where he lets the house consume him, and when he's after he's already after he attacks her on the staircase and he's locked in the pantry, that's when the house not only knows it owns him, but makes its stake in him clear by telling him, you're not doing your job. When we thought you were. So like, it is interesting when you really think about it, the house, the Overlook Hotel is the second main character of the movie. Because through these individual voices, that's the house speaking. That's Sorry, Lewis, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I do like that this movie does a good job of slowly pulling off that mask, and by the end of the movie, you understand the Overlook Hotel is the bad guy. It's not the ghost. It's not Jack.
It is the villain of the story.
Mm-hmm. I do have a question. Was Grady a furry?
So the book goes.
I didn't read the book, so I'm just kind of curious about what happened in that scene.
The book goes into the Bunny Man, which you briefly see in the movie performing fellatio acts. So the book is cool in that it delves into each of the ghosts a little bit more and kind of gives you, which I wish the movie had done, but there wasn't enough time.
They did 2.5 hours. I mean, what wasn't enough time?
You got to remember, there was shit that was shot that you'll never see because Kubrick destroys everything. I just read
there was a scene where Jack actually looks through the scrapbook with a bunch of photos with the characters in it. Kubrick destroyed that.
Well, if you ever watched a documentary on his right-hand man, I can't remember the name of the documentary or the guy, but he has a story about he came across in like a shed or something of Kubrick's, he came across a reel of footage that was deleted scene from one of his movies. And he said, hey, check this out, Stanley, look what I found. And Stanley said, bring it out back. And he immediately started a fire, lit a cigarette off the fire, and threw the reel of film in there to burn. He destroyed. There is no director's cut of his movies. There is no extended scenes of his movies. He deleted everything he didn't use. Destroyed it. He was insane like that. So that and as a film lover, it's really frustrating to understand that like there could be more to some of your favorite films that just was pissed away because of his process. So yeah, that's the frustrating part. But I mean, as Lewis said in the beginning, The Shining is the exact movie Kubrick wanted to put out there. And then there's lots of things to go into subliminally, whether it be the Native American tobacco cans being faced to show that's on the burial ground. If you ever watch a documentary Room 237, it's pretty good, and it goes into.
That was funny because my wife came in and watched the last like 20-something minutes of the movie. She just walked in from work and saw me watching the movie, and she goes, "Oh my God, that's baking powder or some shit like that." She goes, "That's baking powder," and she's pointing at the Indian can on the side that you said was faced, to face the camera. She goes, that's like the baking powder or some shit. And I was like, what? Like,
Yeah, there's lots of theories, and of course they're all theories as to why, like the whole thing with Danny wearing the NASA shirt supposed to symbolize he filmed the space launch or the moon landing, and there's lots of little things in there that they have like that. But the problem with a guy like Kubrick is, he died literally at the end of filming Eyes Wide Shut. So there was never an era of Kubrick on the internet.
Is that the one? Is that the Vanilla Sky Eyes Wide Shut?
Eyes Wide Shut's a different movie than Vanilla Sky.
Oh no, is that the two that they remade or something like that, or are they're together?
They weren't made together. No, Vanilla Sky wasn't Kubrick.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Eyes Wide Shut and Vanilla Sky are supposed to be like the same movie, shot for shot, or some bullshit like that.
No. No. Eyes Wide Shut is it's a weird one. It's not very good. It's basically all about this underground society that you're brought into via orgies and satanic ritual type shit. It's the Vanilla Sky is weird for the sake of being fucking weird. It's not a good movie. I don't like it. I haven't watched it in a long time, and maybe I'd enjoy it now being older. But
is that the one with Tom Cruise or whatnot?
Yeah, the one where he gets into an accident and his face is all fucked up, and then he's there's alternate. It's just.
Okay, then I guess I'm confusing something with. Okay, I'm confusing something with something. But
Eyes Wide Shut has no connection. It was the last film that Kubrick made. He died as they were doing post production on it, so he never even made it to the premiere or anything. I actually just listened to an interview with Matthew Modine, who kind of described Kubrick as this guy of if he was focused in a project, everything else was secondary. And he talked about how while he was filming, or while he was in the process of dealing with Eyes Wide Shut, Modine had called him just to kind of chit-chat, and Kubrick basically gave him the, what do you want type thing. And Modine walked away from the phone call kind of like, well, I thought we were friends, ha ha ha. He's like, I'll call you back later. Don't worry about it. I just wanted to talk. And next time he heard about Kubrick was a few months later when Kubrick was dead. He got a phone call from Kubrick's longtime producer. So he was a weird guy, man. He had weird methods, and he knew what he wanted, and he put it into his films. I mean, there's a lot of difference between Clockwork Orange and Clockwork Orange the movie, the book and the movie too. He was definitely an interpreter of source material. And frankly, I don't know if you see that enough nowadays. You have a lot of people making things out of other sources, and they just kind of yep, this is what I put out there. Kubrick was a master of his craft, and you can love The Shining as a horror movie fan. You can love The Shining as an art house movie fan. You can love The Shining as an actor's display fan. That's the thing is, it fits so many genres of how you can enjoy this movie. It's a character study. It's a haunted house tale. It's a movie about sobriety and the struggles. It's a family. Yeah. It's a broken home dynamic with the alcoholic father. So there's so many facets of this movie that if you wanted to go into and say, you know what, I like this movie because of the relationship that you see between the Shelley Long and Danny, because they clearly have a tight relationship. Mom and son are tight, or if you want to explore the relationship between, or like I said, or character study where you just talk about the fact that Jack Nicholson goes from a unwilling participant to a person who understands the house is taking him to a defender of the home or of the hotel.
He goes from zero to psycho pretty fucking fast, man.
Yeah, well, they do an okay job of it building a little bit when you start to see it in him a little bit, and then he has that whole when I first came up here, it felt like I had been here before. I knew where I was going before. So that already tells you, they don't go into it, but you also get the idea, is this whole movie talking about destiny? Is it the destiny to go to the Overlook so Danny can figure out that he's got this power?
But then you also have to remember Danny's having these premonitions himself, which when I first watched the movie, I didn't know Danny had premonitions. Like I said, I was a kid when I was watching this shit.
By the way,
I didn't pay attention to that.
I'm gonna say this: the way Danny starts screaming "Red Rum" is stupid.
Yes, it is.
I'm watching it and I'm like, this is just if I'm gonna nitpick one thing, fire that kid next time.
He was a bad actor, though. He was a bad
Well,
actor.
he's on his bed when Nicholson's losing his shit, and he's just.
But you could see when Danny's doing rad rum, and he goes to reach for the lipstick, but then like he hears somebody tell him don't do it yet, and he pulls his hand back. They never cut that. They should have edited that.
I didn't
And that's
actually catch that.
where
I gotta look at that.
couldn't fucking deal with kids.
Yeah.
What is it? The number one thing? Don't work with children. Don't work with fucking animals.
The thing about it is Kubrick was notorious for doing like as many takes as it took to get it right. So it would be.
But he didn't do it with fucking Danny.
It's yeah,
You
I don't know.
you could see him reaching for the lipstick, and you can hear, or you can see that somebody told him don't do it yet, and he pulled his hand back, and then he fucking goes back again, rad rum, and he grabs the lipstick.
Could you make the argument that that's Danny fighting Tommy internally?
Are you sure?
I mean, I think you can make the argument.
Tommy was actually helping him, and that's just me. I think Tommy was helping him so he didn't have to deal with it.
See, yeah, but that's the thing, though, is like, if you're going to look at it that way, you have to understand that just like Jack is having the struggle fighting the hotel, Tommy is having, or Danny is having the struggle fighting Tommy from taking over him.
So this is where the Kubrick's adaptation, his screenplay, doesn't do a good job of communicating from the book, because the film makes you think that Danny's alter ego is in itself a character, when really it's The Shining just reflecting back on him. So it's himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will have you know, even though that scene sucked, that Danny Lloyd, the guy who plays Danny Torrance, he's only ever been in 2 movies.
Really?
He's made 2 television appearances, but he's been in The Shining as a feature film, and he also has a cameo in Dr. Sleep, and that's it.
Oh,
really? Wow.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's a terrible actor.
But he's nothing like Anakin Skywalker, right? He's not like
no. But also, when they cast him, he was not told. Granted, he was a kid, but he was not acting to be or told that this was a horror film. So I think Kubrick wanted kind of like a realistic, as realistic as you can get it out of a little kid.
I also, I feel so bad for Shelley Long. Like I said, in my current position in life, watching this movie, you know, there's the scene where the phones are down and she contacts the police station by the radio.
They don't want to talk to her.
And the cops basically just like, and she's just trying to get any sort of human. And this brings me to any sort of contact. This brings me to my point. The Shining as a movie that exists right now cannot exist in the modern era because of one thing and one thing only, and that's technology.
The internet.
Exactly. The thing about it is at this point, but it's not just that, though. This country has gotten smaller in 35 years. So people that stretch a road that never gets plowed, people are going to pay for it to get plowed for their skiing and to go to the hotel. And the hotel will have satellite internet and satellite television. By the way, the phones are down. The snow is raging. How the fuck do they still have a TV signal?
It's a movie.
They're watching the TV in the big room, and you can see it snowing, and it's a beautiful shot. Phones are down. But that's my other thing. Yeah, Roadrunner, exactly. And that's my other thing. It's like, I just don't fully understand how, like, if you try to make this movie right now, you can't. This movie, even if you remade it, would have to be set in the 70s to make sense.
You know what? I got to stop you for a second. When he started watching the cartoon, she was like, "Just watch your cartoons." When you hear the coyote thing going on and you hear meep meep, my phone at the exact moment that's my ringtone for text messages. It went meep meep. I was like, "Holy shit! What the fuck's going on?" So sorry, I just had to say that.
That's
all
like
right,
when Scatman's calling him Doc, and she's like, "That's funny. How do you know we call him Doc?" "Oh, I must have heard you." And you can see in his face, he's just like, "This bitch is on to me." Like, he's got this, like, "Leave me alone, woman. Like, leave it where it is." And then the first shot you see of Scatman in his element is he's laying in a bed in Florida, and he's got decorative African American naked ladies on paintings above him. By the way, where is
I love
he?
the bar.
Does he live in a single room apartment? Is that his bedroom? Is it a hotel room? What the fuck is he doing? Like, they don't explain, and it looks like he's just in a hotel room, but I've never been in a hotel room that had African American naked ladies on the walls and records stacked up against them. So, like, where is he?
Didn't you have some alcohol too around there? Because I saw
Yeah.
I saw a bar. Okay.
And then he gets on a plane to Florida, like, and then of course I'm or from Florida, and you know me, I make jokes during movies. So like the moment where he's on the plane and he gets up and looks back, and so I immediately and he looks at the stewardess, and I immediately come out with a bitch, I want a whiskey. And I'm watching my wife, and my wife is like, "Shut up, you're ruining this."
I thought he was going to ask for something else other than the time for ETA.
Like the way he looks at her is like, bitch, you hit me with your cart when you walked by. Like he's gonna yell at her. Like it's just some of his facial expressions are funny.
Another thing I thought he might have said was, "Why haven't we landed yet?" I thought he was going to say something like that, but then that would have been like more.
I also always think of like anytime I see a older like movie filmed inside of an airplane, I think of Commando. When he like kills the dude, he's like,
Yeah.
"My friend is dead tired." Like I don't know, I always do.
Puts the hat on his face.
All right, guys, this is enough of The Shining. We can go on for hours. We've got a whole nother movie to review. So let's wrap this up. We're gonna do the reviews. I'm gonna go to Lewis first. How many of these delicious, plump wieners do you give it?
And this is also a 5 out of 5 for me.
Alex,
I'm gonna agree this time because I saw a totally different movie from when I first saw it as a kid. I was pulled into the whole story, and there were things that bothered me about it, but it took me to a different it took me to a different viewing level, and I'm gonna say 5 out of 5.
yeah, I'm going straight 5 out of 5. I love when they redo movies in new formats. Because it gives you a reason to watch, and then I've seen the movie so many times. There's nothing. What?
Are you talking about 4K?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing new I'm gonna see, but I'm like a I'm a cinephile. I'm a technology guy. So watching a movie that I absolutely love in the best transfer I've ever seen. The opening shot with the helicopter where they follow the car in the 4K transfer is gorgeous. The soundtrack, they got a great 5.1 mix, and the soundtrack is something that it really needs to be highlighted. We can make an episode talking about the music of this fucking movie,
Yeah.
and that's why I have to stop it here because we're just gonna keep going. So we're all agreed 5 out of 5 on this one. Nobody's a little bitch.
I gave it, by the way, just so you know.
So for the audio, Alex gave it a thumbs up as well. Lewis, did you? Bye.
Kawaii.
See ya. Bye.
All right, guys, and on to our third and final feature of the night, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, this movie came out in 1984, November 9th. Let's see, runtime on this, you're looking at 91 minutes, it's a shorter film.
Thank God.
Budget, 1.8 million, box office of 57 million. So this was a success.
Yeah, I mean that's how much? 20 times the budget.
Yeah. All right. So for director Wes Craven, produced by Robert Shane, also written by Wes Craven, and obviously this film spawned a franchise, just like Halloween and Jason. This became one of the all-time top slasher films when you think of like kind of the old school slashers. All right, so on to cast. You have there's quite a large cast in here. I'm just going to go over kind of the main characters or top billing characters. You have Heather Langenkamp as Nancy Thompson. You have John Saxon as Lieutenant Donald Don Thompson. Yeah, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. This was before he was Freddy Krueger.
Yep, he's just Fred Krueger in this fucking movie.
You have Johnny Depp.
Him as Freddy Krueger at some point.
Not once.
No. No,
Okay.
not in this one.
The only time they say his name is when she has his hat, and she's like, "It's Fred Krueger's hat."
Okay, so when she's on the phone, she's her dad. She says Fred Krueger. Okay, thank you.
They don't. Freddy doesn't come into the sequels.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You have an actor who no one's ever heard of called Johnny Depp as Glenn Lance.
Who's that?
Yeah.
He was in
you-
21 Jump Street.
Oh my
yeah.
God! Isn't that the
Yeah.
guy with the Dom DeLuise?
You got it. You got it. You have Ronnie Sue Blakely as Marge Thompson, Amanda Weiss as Tina, Nick Corey as Rod Lane, and that's it for kind of the main cast.
Nobody names their kids Rod anymore. When was the last time you met anybody named Rod?
It's not a good name.
Wait, what was Rod's name?
The actor, Nick Corey.
Yeah. It says Jesu Garcia.
Well, that's his actual name. His quote unquote stage name.
Oh, okay. That sounds
Alex,
a little.
we talked about this. Stop going off of actor's name. Go after characters' names.
No. I was trying to get the actor's name.
Why? Who cares? He dies. What, spoiler
All right,
alert from a movie in 84?
He's an actor from Chicago too. Like he was in Wildcats.
Oh,
That was filmed here at Lane Tech High School.
am I supposed to have pride in that a fucking movie was filmed in a school that I went to for 4 years?
Yes.
Give it up, people. If it's 15 years later and you're still repping your high school banner, you have wasted your fucking life. Give it up. Go
You don't
meet
care about
somebody
your alma mater?
Why should I? They wouldn't agree with me. They wouldn't like me right now. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, right now because of who you are. Yeah.
I'm
okay.
so proud to be a Lane Tech Indian. Oh wait, I can't be a Lane Tech Indian anymore because that's cultural appropriation. So, I guess I have to be a Lane Tech frog or whatever a toad or whatever they want to do it now. So, what pride should I have exactly?
My daughter did ask if they could become a Lane Tech frogs. Yeah, she did ask.
So I'm supposed to have a pride in a school that doesn't even know how to identify itself besides the money it gets from the city. I'm good, thank you. Moving on to the movie. Sorry, yeah, no, there's no pride for that. But they didn't give me anything, okay? I had to fight for everything I got in that school while I watched people who were half as smart as me get in because they met a quota. Fuck that school. No. High school, people who look at high school as their best goddamn years, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, for one thing, when you start high school, you're like 14, and you're barely an intelligent being. Like, you can talk and read and write, but logical thought doesn't exist. And so to think those are your best years, for one thing, is just wrong. And, so it's like, I don't know, like, if you really do, if you're sitting at home right now and you're listening to this and you're insulted about me saying that your high school years being the best years of your life is pathetic, I want you to I don't mean to insult you, but I'm right. Sorry, please go on to this wonderfully shitty movie we're going to review here in a second.
Oh, wonderfully shitty.
You know who else probably thought his high school years were the best? Rod.
Fred fucking Krueger.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Rod, yes, definitely Rod.
Rod and Fred sound like they should have been both side characters.
Maybe
like
even Glenn.
Glenn.
Glenn might have thought that his high school years would have been.
All right, we're interrupting Lewis or Anthony too much. Sorry,
Maybe Glenn too. So obviously, this was Johnny Depp's first film. Wes Craven wanted to create a slasher film that was different from the movies before it. He didn't want to follow the tropes that Halloween went with, so he kind of leaned into the more bizarre. He originally intended for Freddy Krueger to be a child molester. He wanted to move away from that, so developed him to be a child murderer. Eventually, as the series progressed, it kind of leaned back into that dark territory. But Freddy was never meant to be a carbon copy of Leatherface, Michael Myers, or Jason. And it definitely, when you watch the series, it definitely is in its own corner of the horror genre. Some like it, some don't. But Matt, or not Matt, sorry, you didn't pick this movie because you're not. I don't think you're a huge fan of this movie.
So I do have
but
a
Alex,
theory, just to cut you off for a second, as to why they changed it from a molester to a murderer. And I do wonder if it has anything to do with Roman Polanski.
Was he involved in this, or
No, but Polanski back in '77 was arrested for raping and
or
drugging
is
a
that when
girl.
he got?
Yeah,
Is that when he was charged?
He was arrested in '77 and I think fled the country in '78. So, like, I do wonder, since he was a real big name in Hollywood.
And they were good friends of his.
Yeah, you got to wonder if that's why they backed away from that storyline.
You're
and
also
that guy
getting
came out later with the sequel or with the remake.
You're halfway to the '90s. I mean, a lot of films really started backing away from.
Well, I mean, like we talked
shit.
about last episode. The '70s was like basically like if you were a horror movie, you were either had a horrible rape scene or it was about a woman being horribly raped. Like there was no bounds. They didn't give a shit. Like
well, that's what happened in previous with Halloween. Like in certain scenes, there was kind of like gratuitous nudity.
compared to nowadays,
happening.
I felt it was classy. There's something so nice.
There was certain parts that weren't horrible about it because it was just like a naked scene, whatever.
Yeah.
But there were parts where she was just, I'm gonna take off my shirt because I spilled something on it. That's gratuitous, I guess you would say.
I
but
know, man, I look at I don't know, like I look at those old school horror movies with their nude scenes, and I really do miss the damsel in distress running around in her panties. Like nowadays, they go full bore, where it's just like gratuitous sex scene, then they're slaughtered. Like there's just something about like the innocence of like some
Matt
70s...
likes a little tease.
Yeah, I don't want. I'm at my age, nude scenes like if I was 12, still sure, but nude scenes don't do anything for me anymore. Like nowadays, I do. I feel like an old man because I'm just like, I'm watching these movies and I was like, they should let them wear panties more in horror movies. It's so much cuter.
But look at it from our standpoint. Do they have parents that let them watch it? Do they have, you know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you mean actually.
Well, I mean, you have kids now watching fucking Game of Thrones, seeing boobies every other
yeah. So when we were kids, we just came across it because our parents did not understand how cable works. So we were able to watch these movies as they came along. Now, do the parents allow them to watch these movies, or is it their parents just don't know how to stop them from watching it?
Well, I mean, I think if
and seeing it as it's going along, like Game of Thrones, blah blah blah.
I think with the progression of the young people of the entire of the global young populace, I think it proves more and more that America's outlook on nudity and sexuality is way antiquated compared to like Europeans. It's one of those things like, why as a country are we so obsessed with there being nudity in a movie? In Europe, there's nudity in their fucking billboard ads, like.
Oh yeah.
We've got such a.
Didn't they have that in like the Griswolds when they went to America or to Europe? Yeah. And that was back in the 80s too, right?
Yeah, like that's the thing.
Holy shit.
The colonial look upon nudity and sexuality due to our Christian.
J. Edgar Hoover?
Yeah, no. the Christian kind of foundations of this country, unfortunately, has put a weird stigma on sexuality that exists still to this day. And then don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, go put piercings all over your body and have sex with horses, but we look at nudity as a very, I don't know, like back then the reason why it felt gratuitous is because it was like, whoa, boobies. But it's only because we're so repressed as young people to think that nudity's a bad thing.
I think the reason why it was because almost every single person that was killed was naked. That's the only reason.
Yeah, and then I mean, that's the other thing is Nightmare on Elm Street does have that typical trope of the first person to have sex dies.
Yeah.
Like they literally.
Not Halloween also does it.
Technically, yeah.
Myers' sister goes upstairs and has sex, and she's the first person that dies.
But this is one of those ones where it's literally like goes from sex scene to murder.
Yeah.
And it's a violent scene.
Yeah.
So, Alex,
I'm sorry. Go
after
ahead.
that, all that talk about sex scene in movies. Hopefully, that's not why you picked this film. But
No.
could you tell us why did you pick this film?
Definitely the child diddling.
Well, the reason why I picked this film is because as I was like almost 9 years old, I believe, when this came out, and when I finally got to see it, maybe I was like 9 or 10. But to have a movie come out and it's about dreams and somebody who's killing you in your dreams, that's something that was just something that was new to me, and it was like, holy shit, like, like what can you do, like, and another thing is, I didn't see it the way, like, this is all three of these movies today, man. I didn't see it the way I saw it as a kid. When it started out, and you see Tina being introduced, and she like makes a scream or something, and like something happens. You don't see like how things happen, but you oh my god, I'm doing it again.
Well, no, I totally get it. It's like that's the cool thing about movies. Like, the version of it you see now is not the same interpretation you see.
Yeah, in your
the
real
first time
life.
you watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, so this thing going on, oh god.
I, for the love of me, could not remember ever watching the beginning part where he makes the knife glove. I don't
No.
remember ever seeing that scene before in my life.
And how it's shown in such a small portion of the screen.
Okay, so I rented it because
Like,
I don't own it, and it starts off where it's the small screen, and I'm over here like, did these motherfuckers give me a standard def transfer? Are you fucking kidding me? And then it pans out, like I'm sitting there literally like, all right, let's see what happens here, because I'm about to be real pissed.
Yeah. So do you remember in A New Nightmare when that's the one where it's
I really like A New Nightmare.
Yeah, so that kind of has the same similar opening scene where he's making the knife. I honestly always think of that film. I totally forgot it was in the first film.
Yeah, me too, completely. I watched it today, and I'm like, the fuck? He makes his glove in this movie? I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, and there's so many things about that scene right there that tells you it doesn't even tell you about who he is as a person. It just shows you that a person's trying to create this weapon to create fucking havoc on people, and it's just something like that kind of scares you as a kid at 9 years old. For me,
yeah.
I was like, holy shit, this guy's creating a weapon. And then as you're watching the movie and it goes on, the parents knew what was going on, but they didn't tell their kids. And the mom, who I gotta say it, but she's a fucking drunk.
Oh God, yeah.
She fucking. This is not spoiler free, right? This is
no,
we're not doing spoilers.
I mean, I don't think spoiler free reviews.
All right, so here's the thing about that whole thing. When I got to the point of the mom, Nancy's mom, she has the fucking glove hiding somewhere in their furnace the whole time, and she's got this child who she didn't tell her child that she killed this guy, or with the family, whatever.
Sorry, no, I'm just laughing because you brought up the glove, and the only thing I could think of during this scene where she pulls out the glove is like, here, I kept proof of a murder I committed. Like,
yeah,
like, here's my evidence.
I don't have much to say about that part, but like as a kid, there was things about it like that really fucking freaked me out. It was Tina's fucking body being dragged through the hallways of a high school.
No, I like that scene quite a bit. That one was pretty cool.
It was very good. It was a very good scene because it scared the shit out of me as a kid. And that's the one scene up until I was maybe like 20 years old where I could not watch the movie until that, as 9-year-old to a 20-year-old, that I couldn't watch it again. What were you going to say? I see you like you're ready to say something, Matt.
No, I didn't say anything.
You look like you're about to say something. Anyway. No, but that was just like one scene about that whole movie that scared the shit out of me as a kid. That just I don't know how to say it. Like just watching a body being dragged, and she sees her show up at the class, and then she sees her being dragged across the hallways, and then like the way the body's just picked up and moved, and me being a 9-year-old kid not understanding how CGI or anything like that works.
See,
It kind of freaks me out.
part of me feels like I might be a psychopath. Because, like, when I was 9 years old, I could watch a movie like that and be like, I'm tired, and go to bed and sleep like a fucking baby. Like,
You might.
even nowadays, like, nothing phases. Like,
Don't you also talk about putting like a barrel to your mouth?
never on camera.
You just spoiled our 100th
Way
episode.
to ruin the surprise. All right, everybody. I was going to shoot myself live on camera.
Oh, fuck
And,
me.
Alex has now ruined it, so cancel the cake.
We'll do it for 200th episode.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I never found this movie scary. I do appreciate some of the cinematography they achieved in it. Like, I would like to know why the director was so why Wes Craven was so obsessed with the effect of being able to put like the floor on the ceiling where the blood goes up. Like, there was two scenes.
Yeah.
Of that.
So that's because they spent a fuck ton of money on this budget on a rotating room, a la Inception.
See, I didn't know that. But yeah, there was stuff like that I didn't understand. That's why Johnny Depp or Captain Jack Sparrow had to perish that way.
I prefer. Actually, I don't like any of his monster characters. I'm so tired of Johnny Depp with his British accent.
Well, when he first opens his mouth in the movie, now knowing that I know him as Jack Sparrow, and he says something in the first scene that he talks, I instantly heard Jack Sparrow. I don't know what it is about, and he's young.
She also calls him a jock at one point, and it's like
he's not a jock.
There's
Well,
nothing
he's
that
supposed to
they
be a football player, right?
there's nothing they show. Like, even the way he dresses is that of kind of a nerd. Like, there's nothing about him that's jockish at all.
But him and Rod know each other as far as football, right? That's why
that's the other thing. Since when do the burnouts and the nerds come together to play football? Like, what fucking high school is this? Do you live in Fantasyville?
So I have a quote from Rod when they're like all at the high school. It's when you first you meet all of them with Nancy.
Oh God!
And Rod runs up behind Tina.
Oh,
And the line he says is
the lawnmower one.
Well, I don't know. He says, Tina, I woke up this morning and I had a heart on with your name on it, and I was just like, man, this movie.
Yeah. I didn't know you could fit those 3 letters on your heart on or some shit like that.
And then he gives her like the Danny Zuko, where he's like, "Yeah, go screw, like he's in a '50s greaser group."
Yeah, he says go screw yourself with a weed whack or some shit like
but
that.
Like, here's the thing. Then 10 minutes later in the movie, she's banging the shit out of him right before she's murdered.
Yeah.
Like, and then they're like, "Let's not fight anymore. No more arguments." And it's like, wait. The argument you had was because he said he wanted to bang you, and you told him no. Like, that's a fight in your relationship? Like, what is wrong with these people? Go on, Alex, since this is still...
No. Who's next here, man?
Lewis, let's have you into it.
Yeah, so I was never a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan. I think it was just a little too like outlandish and bizarre for me, and rewatching this movie kind of the score for this movie for its time was not good. It was not good.
It was on the level for the time, but it wasn't good for the time.
I would argue that it wasn't even good for the time, considering in '78 you had Carpenter creating Halloween soundtrack.
But it is, I mean, to compare it to Halloween, like Halloween was kind of a minimalist movie with a low budget. This movie with its higher budget, like even the opening scene where Freddy Krueger is chasing, I think it's Nancy in her dream, and his arms are extending.
Yeah, and they're touching the walls.
It's just like it is Tina.
Yeah,
it's literally like
it's
the
so
practical
bad.
effect was they went out and bought dryer hoses and just like made his arms out of dryer hoses that were like extended too far with poles in them.
That is one scene that everybody laughed at when I was watching it. Again, I'm 9 years old at a fucking movie like that. So they let you people, they let you in the
And
theater.
that was the other thing is I could have swore there was more of Freddy Krueger's like sense of humor in the first one, but it's really just him laughing hysterically. Like there's none of those like witty one-liners that you see in the sequel.
His humor comes in the sequels, but
Yeah.
you thought it did because you watched them all, but it's actually in all the sequels.
So another thing, speaking of Nancy's mom, who she deserves her own fucking movie. So there's a scene where Nancy's in the bathtub and the mom's been boozing up, and she tells Nancy like, "Don't fall asleep," and of course Nancy gets attacked by Freddy Krueger, and then Nancy's mom turns in a fucking MacGyver and like picks the door lock to get in the bathroom out of nowhere.
You know what's funny about that though is like I remember my mom when we go to my grandmother's house and she'd be like, "Watch this," and she'd pull out a butter knife and unlock the bathroom door. So
now,
like, it's not as far fetched as you may think.
Here's something that you need to remember too: is certain doors have those pins, and one of my bathroom door has the pin. All you need is something straight. You put it in there, and that's what Nancy's mom did. Was she opened up the hanger, she put in the pin, and she popped it in there, and she opened the door. It's not that plot. It's not that bad. It's not. Sorry, I burst your bubble there.
I don't like that you guys are defending Nancy's mom. I think she's stupid. I think she's a terrible character.
Her mom is a terrible character, yes.
I just remember my mom opening the goddamn door with a butter knife, so I was like, maybe it's plausible.
That happens too. Hey, that happens too. It depends on where the lock is. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to burst your bubble there, Lewis. I apologize.
So the dad, John Saxon. So that hairpiece.
Talk about him.
When he walks into the office, the principal's office, though, and he's like, "What was she doing over there?" Like you could tell they're divorced. Like, are they divorced or not?
Was that the police department? I didn't see that.
Might have been the police department.
I thought it was the police department.
It might have been. But here's my thing: are they divorced? Do they explicitly say they are?
That was my question too. Yes. Go ahead.
I think it's implied.
By him, like, kind of,
They're separated in some form.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they just kind of like let it like subliminally be there. Like, the only clues you get is he's yelling at the mother, in a not like, "Wife, what have you done?" In a like, "What you're supposed to be watching her."
Yeah, that was one of my questions. So I'm glad you addressed it. Yeah.
One thing I can't get over with this movie is towards the end when, Freddy she's pulled him out of the dream and he's just wrecking her fucking house. And the stupid cop that's supposed to signal the father is like, asshole! I wonder if I should go tell the lieutenant. It's like, are you fucking like what? Like you don't need a character in a movie that's stupid. Like the movie's already kind of dumbed down enough. You don't need to add that layer of stupidity just to piss people off. Because that's what it felt like. They put that character in there just to make me mad.
Whoever brought it up earlier, yes, the Evil Dead is on TV in this movie.
Yeah, that was me. Good stuff. So Halloween had The Thing, and then Nightmare on Elm Street had Evil Dead. Okay, cool. That's
pretty sure. The Shining had Little House on a Prairie.
No, they had the Coyote and the Roadrunner. No,
there was the show that they were watching in the Great Hall when they're like, it's the scene where it's like the snow dropped background. I'm almost positive it was Little House on the Prairie that they were watching on the TV.
All right, cool. That's
also a great horror film, Little House on the Prairie.
Scary
it
as
is.
Shit.
As long as you're the one that's not fucking drinking.
If you let the Fantasy Island directors remake another fucking old TV show, I'm sure they'll do something with Little House on the Prairie. Can you escape?
Hey,
if they made that movie, they'd have to have like a getting lost in the corn scene. It's inevitable. Sorry, Lewis, go ahead.
Oh no, so I have some thoughts on the end of the film, Matt. I'll let you take over until we jump to the end.
I'm not going to tear it apart much, only because I feel like my childhood. This is one of those situations where your childhood memories kind of eclipse what the actual movie was. And I went into it remembering that I liked it a lot more than I ended up did liking it. It's a little bit hard because, you know, and part of it is you watch a classic like Halloween that's 6 years older than this movie is, and you're kind of jonesed up on the like, wow, that was way better than I thought it was going to be. I hadn't seen it in so long. And then you come to Freddy Krueger, and it's not bad. Like, the kill scenes are cool. Johnny Depp getting sucked into the couch is cool. Her getting tossed around that rotating room was cool. It's
And then to have her boyfriend, you know, watching it happen, that was pretty cool.
Between the characters being just stupid, like the mother, you know, the way they explain it's just like, you know, she says it so nonchalantly, where it's just like, so, you know, and she even taps the gasoline jug. So we poured gasoline around his house and lit him on fire, and I kept the evidence of our murder. Here's his glove, and it's like, why did you just walk in? Like she literally goes into the basement and opens up the Kevin McAllister furnace, and all of a sudden, like, there's
and the furnace doesn't burn the year long, right?
Like, why would you keep this for a decade? Like, and like the other thing is they don't really ever justify it. She's just like, he was a murderer. He took kids back, so they don't ever give you the sense that like the actual Fred Krueger did anything wrong, except for he's obviously evil. But like, I don't know. The parents in the movie are stupid as shit. I like the actor who plays the father, but they're all like, literally watching this. You kind of got to be like, where are the parents? Like, even though they're there, like, she's in the bathtub and you're smothering her, but she's being tossed around a room and somebody's trying to murder her, and you're nowhere to be fucking. You're drunk. Like, how does that work? You're literally like, don't fall asleep, you dumb bitch, you'll die. In one scene, and then the next scene, you're passed out drunk from your tequila
that she found in the linen closet.
Yeah, it's like, it's just every other character besides the ones that are there only to be murdered are useless.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
And then when he gets her mother at the end and smothers her and lays on top of her, and the bed just absorbs her. And and then the obvious ending is, you know, solely there to let you know that, well, the movie didn't end how you thought it did. It's all bullshit. Well, she's locked in a dream.
Building up to that end, though, she tells him, "Dad, come and find me in 20 minutes."
20 minutes.
And then she has enough time to file out the
yeah, she goes murderous Home Alone again with a Kevin McAllister.
She put the thing in the sledgehammer. Where the fuck did she get a sledgehammer from in 20 minutes?
Not only that, but
she had a conversation with her mom for about maybe 3 minutes, maybe.
This is a psycho killer that can kill you in your dreams. Why do you think a sledgehammer is going to do anything?
Going forward from what I saw about that, it just changed my mind about this whole movie. But I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't dislike it, but it's just, you know.
But it was just like the time that they were using, you know, and how they worded things as far as dialogue goes. It's like, what the fuck, man?
I guess
seriously.
My problem is I don't feel like in the first one has any sort of charm.
Yeah,
like it's just a straight up kind of slasher movie.
When you first saw it, and watched it, it was like, holy shit, this is something different.
Well, the problem is the creepiest part is the little girl singing the song.
Yeah,
that's the creepiest part of the movie.
Yeah, can we do that?
Like that's what I remembered, like as a kid, knowing about Freddy Krueger was the song, and then you see the movies, but that's what hit first was the song.
So if we were all to sing it, can we do it, or are we going to get a strike from YouTube for
strike? We're fucked. I also think that they put Freddy, like Freddy is said Freddy in the song.
Okay.
Because it's 1-2, Freddy's coming for you, unless they didn't sing that in the first one.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where they got the moniker from. But I'll pass it on. Lewis, I don't remember. Have you spoken yet about it? You're in depth.
I have, yeah.
I think we all made our rounds on it.
The problem is I'm trying to think of, like, I took a couple notes, but the movie is a little devoid of a lot of characters, so it's like, it's hard to discuss a movie like this. Even though I like the movie, it's not a movie that you can, like, for The Shining, we could dissect that for hours.
Well, we did speak about it a lot longer than
No,
we've
yeah,
done now. So
this movie's pretty. It pretty much has a one-trick
Oh.
pony with
yeah,
Freddy and the acting, quote unquote, in this movie.
So
Yeah.
two little things I found interesting. The teacher is the same woman who's in the Farrelly Brothers movies. She was in Detroit Rock
She's in
City.
City?
She plays the mother, the overbearing religious mother. She's in the Insidious. She's in the Farrelly Brothers movies. She's the old woman
Wait, is
in
she
Something About Mary with the fake old tits.
is Insidious? Is she the lady that's just trying to?
She's the medium.
She's the medium.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
That-
that's
okay,
her.
okay, thank you.
She's the teacher in the class when she has her little wig out. The second thing was after Johnny Depp dies and the room is just nothing but blood. They're pulling out the stretcher, and in my head I'm like, you don't need a fucking stretcher. There's nothing left. And
They're
then
gonna
then the guy, you don't need a stretcher. You need a mop. There's literally a line of dialogue where one of the
Yeah.
paramedics is like, you don't
Yeah,
need a
he does
stretcher.
say that.
And he says it right after in my head. I'm like, you really don't need a stretcher. It's just blood. And then he's like, you don't need a stretcher. You need a mop. I found that so fucking funny. I was like, he just said what I was thinking. All right. I figure if we're all okay, well, let's wrap up and review Freddy Got Fingered. Oops, I mean Nightmare on Elm Street.
Pretty good.
Freddy Got Fingered.
Yeah, so
we 5.
I guess I'll start. This movie's okay. I mean, it's not, again, it's a good movie. It's definitely it could be in any rotation for horror movies for Halloween. It's just not one of like my top Halloween movies, I think of. So
in order to truly
it,
appreciate this movie, you kind of have to love its sequels because
You do, yeah.
they represent much more of what the character Freddy Krueger is than this film does.
so I would give it 3 hot dogs out of.
Okay,
What about
Alex.
you, Alex?
Yeah, how many delicious wieners?
You were going to me now.
Yes, sir.
All right, so it scared me as a kid, but I'm still gonna go with like 3.5, maybe 3.5 hot dogs. But it did still scare me as a kid, like seeing these little scenes because I was 9 years old, like I said, watching it for the first time ever, seeing Tina being dragged along the hallway, saying, "Hey Nancy, no running in the hallways,"
Yeah.
shit like
And
that.
then she's like, "Fuck your pass."
Yeah, fuck your hall pass.
Yeah, and then it turns into Freddy.
But those little things, that's why I'm giving it that half. But 3.5 for me.
Yeah, I don't know where I fall on this one. Like, I want to give it a 3, simply because, like, I enjoy it for nostalgia's sake, and I like the movie. But part of me, as I dissect it, really wants to give it a 2. So I'm gonna go 2.5.
Boo! I'm sorry. Did I say that loud? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You
should have
got
made,
your two,
a
man.
better fucking movie. What am I gonna say? Eh?
I'm just fucking with you. You could give your 2.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and take, if you're listening to the audio version, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here. You'll be hearing from our sponsor. If you're watching the video version, it's going to go something like this. And then we'll be back.
All right, and we're back, guys. So each week we try to go through a top 10, top 15 list. However, for Halloween, we decided to do honorable mentions for each week. So obviously, this week's theme was classics. So we each chose 5 movies that we believe deserve to be mentioned, or are something memorable to us, or something that we recommend you should definitely check out. So I'm going to start off. I picked 5 movies. I went a little off the beaten path with my list, but I'll start off with number 1. And this is a bit of a cheat because I think of the sequel before I think of the first one, but I chose the first one, Pumpkinhead. This film came out in 1988, starring Stan Winston. I honestly, when I think of this film, I think of the second one because I think of the beginning of that movie where they torment this kid and toss him in a well.
Toss him in the well.
Yeah, but this movie creeped the shit out of me when I was younger. You have his son dies. He tries to bring him back with voodoo magic, ends up summoning Pumpkinhead. Yeah, this is one of my go-to movies. Definitely on my classics list. I don't know if this movie freaked you guys out when you were younger. Like, I don't know, Alex, you probably saw this at a pretty early age.
Yeah, I did see the movie. It's been a very long time, so it's one of those things that I haven't I cannot recall it off the top of my head. But
It
Pumpkinhead was one of those things. What's his name? Oh, Jesus Christ! The star, the dad.
uh
What
the
was the
dead
dad?
is it Lance Hendrickson?
Yes.
He plays Ed. Yeah,
The king
Yeah.
of B movie horror.
Yeah. He is one of the stars of the B movie horror movies.
yeah. But this, I don't know. It's definitely a film that's on my rotation that I watch every year. And my list is not in order of one being better than the other. But I'll jump to my second one, which is obvious classic, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, this movie's awesome. I chose it for a couple reasons. Creeped me out when I was younger. Still holds up. Even the remakes are good. And also, I watched this movie the night before my son was born in the hospital. I could not sleep. I watched this at 3 a.m. He was born the next day. Um, so my third movie, I wanted to go with classics, but kind of move through the generations because obviously um, I'm not that old to enjoy all the original classics. So I chose a classic from the 1990s, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight.
Oh, nice.
Great
Um,
movie.
Again, it's one of the three Billy Zane movies I think of. It's this, The Phantom, and Titanic, and that's it. He hasn't
Really?
been in anything else. Those are the only three movies. Um, and then jumping to the 2000s for my fourth pick, uh, I hold this movie as a classic. Jeepers Creepers.
Ah,
Good
nice.
film.
The first one is really good.
Yeah, holds up. There are two sequels to it, and the writer director for all three films is kind of a creep. So as long as you don't look into that, the movie itself is good.
Yeah. Don't judge.
Um,
Don't judge the movie on the merit of the director. He's a total piece of shit.
yes, yeah, that's a good way to put it. So my number five, which I'm deeming as a instant new classic, is by Ari Aster, the film Hereditary.
I have not watched it yet,
Is it
so that's cool.
Hereditary or is it Heredity?
Hereditary.
Huh. Man, my dyslexia strikes again on that one.
But yeah, if you have not seen this film, I'm sure it's on one of the streaming services you have. Um, and I would go in blind, not look up any
It's on
trailers.
Amazon
Um,
Prime for sure. They actually have it in 4K on Prime.
oh, okay. Now I'm gonna end up rewatching it. But yeah, that is my uh, list of honorable mentions. Matt, did you want to share your list?
Yeah, I'm with Lewis in the fact of like, and most of my movies are at that age that I have listed that are classic. But classic to me doesn't just represent an era; it represents kind of my own life of when I was growing up and what I watched in that form. But with that said, my first movie that I've chosen is Waxwork. Waxwork. I have the information about when it came out. But Waxwork came out, I believe it was 88. Um,
And I have not seen that movie.
yeah, so basically they go into this wax museum of like a Madame Crusoe's type thing, where it's a bunch of wax scenery pieces, and one by one they kind of enter the scenery to kind of touch the figures, and it pulls them into the scene. So one of them is like a werewolf story, one of them is a vampire story. It's kind of an anthology movie, but not really. It's more or less each one of like the four main characters goes into a different scene and has terrible results, and I don't know. I just remember watching it as a kid, and I didn't know the name of it, and a long time went by, and I hadn't seen it, and then I had found the name, and I was like, holy shit, this is the movie that I remember because I had no idea, and I came across it one day, and I was like, this is the movie with the people that go in the wax statues. Are you kidding me? And since then it's like, seriously, but it's just one of those movies that's cheesy, but it's great. The acting is overbearing, but it's one of those movies that's a lot of fun. So the next one I am doing, unless anybody has anything to say about Waxwork.
You're good.
Oh boy, I can't remember what the next one I was going to do was. This is bad. I can't remember my own list. The Thing, classic. I mean,
Yes.
I don't think you even have to explain why The Thing is a fucking classic. For one thing, the movie, people want to, here's the thing. We talk about Halloween was such a classic, but The Thing was made in 1982.
So you don't mean the 2011 one?
No.
Wasn't there one before that though? Wasn't The Thing a remake of all the remakes?
The Thing from Another Planet or Another World.
You're not.
So in
Halloween,
Halloween, were they talking about the thing that he's talking about, or were they talking about the remake?
The original, because he didn't make it yet. Carpenter made the Thing remake.
So in
it's such
Halloween,
an homage to him that not only does he do the homage to the Thing in Halloween, but he ends up remaking it.
okay, that's what I was trying to get at. That's what I wanted to talk about. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean Carpenter, you can tell is heavily influenced in the old school horror, just by how he does things. The Thing's basic. Everybody should know the story. I don't know why I even have to fucking explain it, but they're on this Alaskan research base, and this life form basically gets loose. It's an alien life form.
This thing,
type bacteria, and it starts taking over the crew people one by one. It's another Carpenter movie starring.
Who's who?
Yeah, the whole and we won't go too deep because I don't know exactly what my grab.
We
bag is
might
be,
talk about it later.
Yeah, we may end up later on talking about it. So, great movie.
Great movie.
You can see Carpenter. It develops his skills with makeup and physical effects. Each movie he does.
Kurt Russell's awesome.
Kurt Russell. He's also in Escape from New York, which is another Carpenter movie. So I for me, like I said, all you gotta do is say the word of The Thing, and it's an instant classic.
The Thing.
Exactly. I'm already half staffed. So my third is Evil Dead 2.
Nice.
It's a classic by age, and I mean, for one thing, Evil Dead 1 was such a low budget that I think it was really intelligent for Raimi and basically to go back and say, I'm going to fix everything I didn't want to have broken in the first movie and add to it. And that's what he really does, and it leads into Army of Darkness, which is... I would have chosen Army of Darkness over Evil Dead 2, but Army of Darkness is not a horror movie in any way. And I couldn't justify it. Evil Dead 2 is still very much in the vein of a horror movie, even though it's a comedy too. Then, anybody have anything to say about Evil Dead 2?
I liked it.
Yeah. Great film.
The Necronomicon come, they take over his poor girly friend again. He has some fun with a chainsaw. It's a bloody good time. Although, like I said, even as violent as that movie is, it still doesn't hold a candle to modern gore. None of these movies do. It's just a simple fact. So my fourth movie I chose is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. It's actually not as old as you would think. It's from '86. The thing about it is it's low budget and it's filmed very gritty to the point of, much like when Taxi Driver came out, it was filmed from the point of view of these nighttime cab drivers that were shady and the city was shady. And Henry, Portrait of the Serial Killer very much demonstrates that. It's kind of a basic story. He's just kind of a weird loner that meets up with these other weird people, and it's just kind of a weird acid trip of a movie. The ending is one of the darkest endings I think you can ever see in a movie. And to just spoil it a little bit, it's about Henry. He's obviously nutso. He meets this girl, befriends her, ends up killing a couple folk, and then the end of the movie. Are you ever going to watch it, Lewis? I don't want to spoil it for you.
Oh no, I
hope to one day watch it.
I'll watch it.
Okay, so basically at the end of the movie, this girl that he befriends they make it kind of seem like they're gonna go leave the scene of the crime together, because the big climatic scene of the movie is the one guy that they're traveling with attacks the girl, and Henry protects her, and it's got a scene where he puts a screwdriver into the guy's eye and everything. Huh?
Isn't this based on a actual person or no?
I thought it was, but I can't remember. I think, but it's the name wasn't
Yeah.
Henry. It's based off
Henry Lee Lucas and Otis O'Toole.
Yeah. So
okay.
him and Otis have their skirmish, and he defends. But the end of the movie, they make you kind of they can't kind of make you think like Henry's gonna go off into the sunset with the girl, and the movie ends with he gets out of the car and puts a suitcase on the side of the road in the middle of the nowhere, and the whole thing is she's in the suitcase. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a really dark and twisted fucking ending. And my fifth and final is you ask somebody, name me the top 10, top 5, top 3 classic horror movies.
RoboCop 3.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
The jetpack and the ninja androids terror.
Is he right? Is he right?
No, it's The Exorcist.
Fuck, man, Lewis.
That's close.
Let me astray.
The Exorcist is where I went. This is one of those few movies that still gives me the heebie-jeebies. I wouldn't call it scary at this point, but it does create a certain atmosphere that is legitimately creepy. But that's my honorable mentions for classics. Alex, let's give your titles.
So my shit might be just brief because you know how I am. I talk fucking brief. My first one is Sleepaway Camp.
Boo.
Good movie.
Did you guys watch the movies or no?
I love movies. I just, boo.
No, I said you watched the movie. Anyway.
Yeah, so the Sleepaway Camp series is good.
This shy, traumatized young girl, right? So she goes to this camp, and she's trying to get her shit on, and I don't know if you guys remember how the things ended in the movie, but she ended up fucking murdering her best friend, boyfriend, whatever you want to call. But that movie right there in itself really messed with me as far as how things went. That was my first one. Shit, I can't see my own writing. Phantasm was my second most honorable mentions.
Tall Man.
I didn't choose Phantasm because while I like the movie, it's not like a favorite, and I was almost positive you were going to choose it.
It was mine. I love the Tall Man. That little sphere that ran around and stabbed people in the back and killed them. That was something that was that I liked. I'm going to be a lot quicker than what you guys. You guys are a lot quicker than and spoke a lot fucking better than.
All right.
My other one is what?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Fright Night was my next one. I really enjoyed Fright Night.
It's another good one.
Wait, you're talking about the Colin Farrell movie, right?
No. Fuck you. No.
Yeah, it came out in 2011.
Yeah, 2011. That's not really a classic.
Negative. 1985. No, I really liked the original Fright Night. The one part about the vampire getting killed at the end, how oh my god, what's his name? The vampire. What's his name? No. Don't do that to me, Matt. What's
Tom Cruise?
Anyways, when he gets killed at the end, and how his body just goes from fucking like being a human to like fucking like screaming. I love that scene. You're just being a jerk off. Anyways, my next one is Motel Hell.
Oh, okay. That one's all right.
Now, here's a funny story about this. I was actually my mother went into labor while watching this movie with me.
With you.
With me. The movie came out in 1980, but it was the movie that they were watching in the 76, so it didn't come out right away.
No,
Or maybe I was lied to.
no,
Or maybe I was lied to.
Maybe they realized that movie's been known to induce labor.
Yeah. I was born in '76, but I was told that it didn't happen until whatever. No, but this movie is another one that I really like. The fact that they're fucking creating all this meat from all these people that are stuck underground, and their larynxes are cut from here, and they're just fucking sitting there. I love it.
Is that it?
And number 5, Near Dark.
Well, you like your vampires, huh?
I do. There was something about Finger looking good when I hear when I hear him say that. What was his name? Oh my god, he's not even alive anymore, and I feel bad for saying it like that. Bill Paxton.
Rip.
His character in this movie the whole time is what kept me into it. I don't know how to say it. Bill Paxton is what
made a man crush on Bill Paxton.
I do, and I loved him in Big Love. Oh my god, shit.
Bill Paxton really is one of those like great actors that It really took him to die for people to appreciate his fucking his library.
You know, I went to go see something about the tornado effect in over at the Science and Industry, at Museum of Science and Industry, and he started doing the narration for the tornado thing, and I started tearing up, and my wife looked at me, she goes, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, he's not alive anymore. And she goes, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Bill Paxton is not alive anymore."
Yeah, it was heart complications, I believe.
Yeah, he died from that. Yeah, and I had a tear in my eye just from his narration of a scene we were watching on the screen. And she goes, "Are you really that serious about him?" I go, "No." I go, I just know him as a person as from that, and it struck me. Yeah, so yeah, he was a great guy. But I love this movie.
Alex is a Bill Paxton super fan stalker.
Yeah. Oh, there's other guys too that I haven't even told you about
He's
yet.
got like fanny packs and shit with Bill Paxton on them. Just his face. So I hate to go all the way back to this, but I was just thinking about The Shining when Nicholson has his dream, and he's just like face down on the table screaming. I bust out laughing today watching that part. His screams literally made me giggle. Sorry, go ahead.
How many forms of his manuscript did he have to write that was all play and no? What is it? How did it go?
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
How many pages was that?
I always remember the
rumored
Simpsons,
that
though.
Stanley Kubrick typed all those pages up, but that's just another stupid rumor.
Did he really?
We'll never know.
Yeah, you're a little dead to tell us. Okay, so we're going to be wrapping up this episode. Thank you for joining us. This is the first week of Halloween. We're doing the whole month of Shocktober, or however, Haunted October, however you want to reference it. Next week, we are doing week 2, which is anthology movies. Just give you a little bit of a sneak peek on what we will be doing.
Oh, wait, I thought next week is remakes.
Is next week remakes?
Yeah.
Next week is remakes. Halloween.
Okay, remakes. So should I tell the titles or just say remakes?
That's up to you.
And should we leave a little suspense to it, or what do you want to do?
Well, I threw one out there, so do you want to keep the rest?
Well, we're not
I'll do.
This in.
Do you want me to do? Do you want me to do the outro? I'll just announce next week and the film titles, and then I'll announce the following themes. But I'll just say like they need to check back or stick with us.
Yeah, go ahead. Just wrap it up. We're not breaking. We're not coming back from break. It's just we were continuing, and then we can wrap this up so I can go to sleep.
All right, guys. Well, that does it for this week's episode. Please stick with us all October. Next week we are doing remakes as the theme. And for the movies we chose, we are doing Texas Chainsaw, Hollow Man, and Pet Sematary. The following weeks, we are doing anthologies the week after, B-list movies the week after that. And the final week, we are doing Grab Bag, kind of our dealer's choice of movies we think should be included that we haven't reviewed. If you are watching on the YouTube page, definitely leave us a comment, recommend a movie that we should definitely do for the Grab Bag.
So we can get
But,
either World's Greatest Dad or
Yeah.
RoboCop
yeah,
3.
World's Greatest Dad or RoboCop
Is
3.
this video only? If you comment one of those movies, I will allow it to be reviewed. Also, don't forget, we haven't mentioned this before, planning on doing the final episode as a live stream, and then it'll be out and available edited in its true form on Halloween, so that will be a fun weekend.
But thanks, guys. So we're going to sign off. We will see you next week to review 3 remake movies. My name's Lewis, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you guys. Have a wonderful night.
All right. Have a good night.